Hello everyone. Welcome to Dead Time Stories. I know many of you enjoy listening to these videos as you fall asleep. So before you drift off, I'd love for you to leave a comment letting me know where in the world you're tuning in from. And if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and subscribe. Alright, now let's get comfortable, relax, and dive into tonight's story. The rain began like a whisper, tapping lightly against Mara's windshield. She rubbed her eyes, tired from the hours she'd been driving. What should have been a simple trip home had stretched late into the night after she missed her highway turnoff. Her GPS had drained her last bit of battery an hour ago, and now the black screen mocked her. No directions, no map, just her and the road. The county road narrowed the further she drove. Thick groves of oak and pecan trees leaned inward, their branches tangling above her car. The sky was gone, smothered by a canopy of leaves that funneled her deeper and deeper into shadow. She muttered to herself, half a comfort, half a warning. Just keep driving until you find somewhere to turn around. The words sounded small in the car, swallowed almost as soon as they left her lips. When the first crack of thunder rolled across the horizon, she jumped. Lightning followed seconds later, illuminating a cluster of trunks on the roadside, their wet bark shining like old bones. She gripped the wheel tighter. The road had become gravel, crunching beneath her tires. Her gut told her to turn back, but there was no place wide enough to manage it. The edges were lined with steep ditches, their weeds thick and wet with rain. She whispered again. Next driveway. Just turn in the next driveway. The rain thickened, slashing across the windshield. The wipers struggled to keep up, squealing with every pass. That was when the next lightning flash came, and in its brief, cold light, Mara saw it. A house. It stood beyond a break in the trees, set back on a stretch of gravel drive. 2 stories, the paint long since peeled away, roof sagging in the middle. Its windows reflected the storm like pale, watching eyes. But what froze her heart was the porch. One bulb burned there, yellow and weak, flickering in the rain. Her car slowed almost of its own accord. She rolled into the driveway, gravel crunching softly under her tires. The house loomed closer, filling her windshield, its dark windows fixed on her. Finally, she whispered, though the word came out uneasy. Shelter. She cut the engine. The sudden silence was startling. Only the hiss of rain on the roof and the tick-tick of cooling metal remained. Mara stepped out. The air smelled of wet leaves and something older, like damp wood kept too long underground. She pulled her jacket tight and hurried to the porch. The steps should have groaned. Old wood always did. But they didn't. At the door, she hesitated. The brass knob was cold against her hand, almost slick. Her reflection shimmered faintly in the glass panel of the door, though the angle was wrong, her head tilted differently than she remembered moving. She swallowed, pushed the thought away. The storm was worsening. This was no time for nerves. She pressed the knob, and the door opened without a sound. The air that met Mara was colder than she expected, carrying the faint smell of damp wood and something else, like earth dug too deep. She hesitated in the doorway, 1 foot on the threshold, the storm at her back urging her inside. The entry hall was dim. A single oil lamp sat on a small table against the wall, but the wick had long since gone cold. Still, the faintest glow lingered in the room, though she couldn't see a source. Hello? Her voice sounded small. Is anyone here? No answer. Her shoes made no sound as she stepped across the wooden floor. That unsettled her more than the silence. Old houses were supposed to groan and creak, but these boards were still as stone. Lightning flared through the window, painting the walls in harsh silver. The wallpaper peeled in curling strips, but beneath it, she could see markings etched into the plaster, shallow scratches, uneven but deliberate. For a second she thought they formed letters, but the thunder shook the house before she could be certain. She swallowed and tried again. Sorry for barging in. I just need a place to wait out the storm. Her words fell flat, as though the walls had absorbed them. At the end of the hall, a mirror hung crookedly. Mara caught sight of herself in it, hair damp from the rain, jacket clinging close. But something was off. Her reflection was darker, her skin paler, her eyes a shade too hollow. She lifted her hand in a nervous wave. The reflection lifted its hand a beat too late. She stepped back, heart racing. When she blinked and looked again, it seemed normal. "Get a grip," she muttered under her breath. She turned left, into what had once been a living room. The furniture remained, a long couch with lace doilies still perched on the arms, an armchair facing the empty fireplace, a coffee table with a thin layer of dust. But there was no mold, no cobwebs, no sense that time had done its work here. Everything was preserved, waiting. Mara touched the arm of the couch. The fabric wasn't dusty as she expected, but clean, almost warm, as though someone had just risen from it. The storm outside rumbled, and for a moment she considered going back to her car, braving the rain. But the thought of walking away from this strange, silent warmth into the black forest made her chest tighten. She sat instead. The couch sighed faintly under her weight. Her eyes grew heavy almost immediately, though she hadn't meant to rest them. Just for a moment, she told herself. Just until the rain lightened. From the corner of her vision, she thought she saw the shadow of someone standing in the hall. Still. Waiting. Her eyelids fell, and the house seemed to exhale around her. Mara woke, or thought she woke, on the same couch, though the room had changed. The wallpaper was gone, replaced with bare plaster walls streaked by water damage. The oil lamp in the hall was burning now, its glow weak but steady, casting long shadows that quivered against the ceiling. She sat up slowly. Her jacket was gone. In its place, she wore something unfamiliar, a faded nightdress that smelled faintly of lavender and dust. She ran her fingers along the fabric, her breath catching. "No," she whispered. "I didn't." The creak of a floorboard silenced her. She looked toward the hall. Someone stood just beyond the glow of the lamp, their outline faint and blurred, as if the air itself were distorting them. A woman, maybe, tall and thin, her head tilted slightly as though she was listening. Mara's throat went dry. "Who's there?" The figure didn't move. Didn't answer. Lightning flashed through the window, bright enough to burn away the shadows. For that single instant, Mara saw the hallway empty. When the darkness returned, the figure was gone. She clutched the couch cushion, her breath shallow. The nightdress clung to her as if it had always been hers. "I'm dreaming," she said firmly, as if naming it would make it true. "Just a dream." A sound broke the silence, the slow scrape of something metallic on wood. It came from upstairs, a dragging rhythm, as though someone were pulling a chain across the floor above. The sound paused, then resumed. Against every instinct, Mara stood. Her legs shook, but she forced herself to the base of the staircase. The wood looked freshly polished, no dust, no sign of disuse. A heavy scent drifted down, iron, sharp and bitter. She gripped the banister. "Hello? Do you need help?" For a moment, she thought she heard an answer, a faint whisper, like breath through a keyhole. "Stay." Her chest tightened. She stumbled back a step, shaking her head. "No. No, I need to leave." She turned toward the door. The knob glimmered faintly in the lamplight, so close she thought she could run for it. She reached the threshold, hand outstretched, only to find the door was gone. In its place was more wall. The lamp sputtered, dimming, and the whisper came again, clearer this time, close enough to feel warm against her ear. "Stay." Mara screamed. Her eyes snapped open. She was back on the couch, her jacket still clinging to her, the wallpaper curling from the walls again. The lamp in the hall was unlit. The door stood exactly where it had before. The storm still raged outside. But her hands still smelled faintly of lavender. Mara sat upright, clutching her jacket as if it were armor. Her chest still heaved from the scream that had never left her lips. She could tell herself it had only been a dream, a trick of exhaustion, but the scent of lavender lingered stubbornly on her skin. She stood, brushing her palms against her jeans, and looked toward the stairs again. The shadows clung thicker in that direction, as though the second floor absorbed what little light the storm gave. She whispered to herself, "You just need to wait out the rain. That's all." But her feet betrayed her, carrying her forward. Step by step, she approached the staircase. The banister was smooth beneath her fingers, polished, strangely warm. Halfway up, she froze. A sound drifted down, the faint click of footsteps across wood. Not her own, these were measured, deliberate, too light to belong to her. "Hello?" she called again, her voice breaking. "I don't mean to intrude. I can leave if you want me to." The footsteps stopped. Mara's skin prickled. The air seemed to press down on her shoulders, heavy, urging her either to turn back or climb faster. She swallowed and chose the latter. At the top of the stairs, a narrow hall stretched left and right. Doors lined it, all closed. The wallpaper here was darker, patterned with faded roses, and the carpet beneath her shoes muffled every sound. She tried the first door. Locked. The second, also locked. At the third, her hand hesitated. Faint light flickered from beneath the crack, shifting as though a candle were burning within. Her pulse hammered. She reached down, turned the knob. It opened. The room inside was a bedroom. A large bed sat against the far wall, its quilt tucked neatly, pillows fluffed as though waiting for use. The air was cooler here, sharper. On the dresser stood a mirror, taller than she was, its frame carved with intricate vines. Mara stepped inside cautiously. Is someone here?" The mirror answered first. Her reflection stared back at her, but it wasn't in sync. The other Mara leaned closer, her expression weary, almost pleading. Mara staggered back. No, this isn't real." The other Mara lifted her hand slowly, palm against the glass, lips moving though no sound came. Mara, trembling, stepped forward despite herself. The reflection's words became clear as they seemed to echo in her head. "Don't leave me here." The candlelight in the room flickered violently. For one instant, Mara thought she saw not herself in the mirror, but another woman entirely, pale, thin, eyes hollow with years of waiting. Then the light steadied, and the reflection was her own again. A soft knock rattled the bedroom door. Mara spun, heart lurching. Another knock. Louder this time. And then a voice, low, rasping, on the other side. "You're awake now. Good." Mara froze, every muscle tense. The knock had been deliberate, slow, as though the visitor knew she was listening, waiting. Her throat worked dry and tight. Who's there?" Silence stretched. The storm outside muffled itself until even the rain seemed to hold its breath. Then, the voice again, clearer now, rough with age yet steady. "You shouldn't be here." Her skin crawled. She took a step back from the door, the mirror at her side reflecting her panic in real time now, no lag, no distortion. That almost frightened her more. "I didn't mean to intrude," Mara stammered. "I just needed to wait out the storm. I'll leave as soon as—" The knob rattled. Once. Hard. She backed further into the room until her legs brushed the bed. Her pulse roared in her ears. "You can't leave," the voice whispered, almost tender. "Not anymore." Her chest tightened. "This isn't real," she muttered. "This is just another dream." The door rattled again, but it didn't open. Not yet. Mara's eyes darted to the window. It was locked, but the latch looked simple enough. If she could just climb out, maybe shimmy down the porch roof. She lunged for it, fumbling with the latch. The metal stuck under her fingers, slick with condensation. She tugged hard until it snapped free. The window groaned open an inch, then slammed shut as if shoved from the outside. Mara cried out, stumbling backward. The bed shifted. She whipped around. The quilt had smoothed itself, the indentation where she'd leaned moments ago gone. But the fabric rippled faintly, as though someone invisible had just sat down. Her voice quivered. "Who's here?" The mirror caught her eye. Slowly, terribly, her reflection began to move again out of sync. It turned its head toward the bed before she dared to. and when Mara followed its gaze, she saw the outline. Faint, hazy, seated on the quilt, a figure of a woman. Her form wavered like smoke, but her eyes were black and endless, fixed on Mara with patient hunger. Mara staggered back against the dresser. The mirror shook with the impact, and for an instant she saw not her own reflection, but dozens of faces trapped inside, men, women, children, pressed against the glass as though begging to be freed. The knocking at the door ceased, and the voice whispered one final word directly in her ear, though the door never opened. "Stay." Mara's legs trembled so violently she thought they might give out. The figure on the bed tilted its head, the gesture eerily deliberate, as though studying her. Though its form blurred like smoke, the hollowness of its eyes was sharp and fixed. "I don't belong here," Mara whispered, her voice breaking. "I'm not staying." The figure didn't answer. Instead, the quilt beneath it shifted again, sinking deeper as though invisible weight pressed into it. The sound of the mattress springs groaning filled the room, far too loud in the silence. Mara pressed herself against the dresser, the mirror vibrating at her back. The trapped faces pressed closer on the glass, mouths open, eyes wide, but no sound came from them. Only her reflection remained still, pale and trembling like she was. The figure on the bed leaned forward. Its outline thickened, more human now. Mara could almost make out hair, long and dark, spilling across its shoulders. A whisper leaked from it, not like a voice but like breath dragged across her skin. "You're late." Mara's heart lurched. "No, you're not real. You're not." The whisper came again, more insistent. "You're late." The doorknob rattled once more, then fell still. A new sound followed, scraping wood, as though long nails were dragging slowly down the other side. Mara squeezed her eyes shut, forcing herself to move. She shoved away from the dresser, lunged toward the hall door, but stopped short. Between her and the knob stood the figure, no longer blurred but solid. Human. A woman, tall, gaunt, skin gray as ash, eyes black wells. Her nightdress was the same as the one Mara had worn in the dream, faded lavender flowers embroidered along the hem. She lifted one hand, bony fingers extended, and pointed at Mara with absolute certainty. "Your room," the woman rasped. "It's ready." Mara staggered back, but the mirror pressed cold against her spine. The faces inside stared at her with a desperate knowing, as though urging her not to look away. Her reflection mouthed words she couldn't hear, lips moving frantically. The woman stepped closer, her feet leaving no imprint on the rug. With each step, the room dimmed, candlelight and stormlight fading until only the shape of her remained visible. Mara shook her head wildly. "No, I'm leaving. I don't care if I have to run through the woods, I'm not." The woman's hand shot out, not touching Mara, but hovering inches from her chest. The air grew colder, pressing against her lungs until she gasped. "You've always been here," the woman whispered. "You just forgot." The mirror behind Mara shattered. She screamed. But when she opened her eyes, there was no glass on the floor. The mirror was whole. The woman was gone. And the bed was empty again, its quilt smoothed, waiting. Mara's chest heaved, the phantom chill of the woman's hands still lingering in her lungs. She stumbled toward the bedroom door, desperate to be anywhere else. The knob turned easily now, as if it had never been locked. The hallway stretched before her, dim and narrow, lined with closed doors. The storm outside cracked and rumbled, its light briefly illuminating the faded rose wallpaper and the worn carpet beneath her feet. She whispered to herself, over and over, "Just find the stairs. Just go down. Get out. Get out." But the hallway felt longer now, stretched unnaturally, each door identical to the last. She tried the nearest one. Locked. The next. Also locked. Her fingers trembled as she rattled each knob, her breathing quickening with every failure. Finally, one turned. She hesitated, heart pounding. Slowly, she pushed it open. The room inside was small, almost a closet. A single wooden chair sat in the center, facing the wall. The wallpaper here was shredded, deep claw marks scoring the plaster. On the floor lay a child's doll, its porcelain face cracked, one glass eye missing. Mara's breath caught. The doll's remaining eye gleamed faintly in the stormlight, fixed on her. She closed the door quickly, pressing her back to it, bow rising in her throat. Another boom of thunder. The door across the hall creaked open on its own. Her head snapped toward it. Shadows swayed inside the room beyond, though no light source flickered. Something was moving in there, slow, deliberate, scraping along the floor. "Hello?" she asked before she could stop herself. Her voice trembled. The scraping paused. Then, from the darkness, a whisper emerged, high and strained, like a child forcing words through clenched teeth. "Don't go downstairs." Mara's stomach dropped. She took one shaky step backward, away from the open door. The shadows inside seemed to pulse, stretching outward as if reaching for her. Another door rattled violently down the hall, the knob twisting back and forth as though someone were trapped inside. She covered her mouth to keep from crying out. The child's whisper came again, louder now, echoing through the walls. "They're waiting." Mara turned and ran. Her feet thudded against the carpet, every door she passed slamming shut with a deafening bang as though the house itself was hurting her. She reached the stairs, her hand gripping the banister. But at the bottom stood the woman in the lavender nightdress, her black eyes fixed upward, her lips stretching into a smile far too wide for her face. Mara froze, her breath hitching. The woman lifted her hand and beckoned. "Come down," she rasped. "It's supper time." The footsteps stopped only a few feet from the threshold of shadow. She could see nothing within, only a darker shape among the dark. A man's voice this time, low and hoarse, seeped out. "Too late." Mara's stomach dropped. The shape shifted forward, then withdrew. The dragging resumed, retreating deeper into the house. Her breath came in shaky bursts. The silence stretched, and then, softly, from above, where she had just been, another voice spoke, sharp and urgent, in her own exact tone. "Don't follow it." Mara's knees weakened. She looked up the stairs. For a split second she saw herself at the landing, hair disheveled, jacket torn, eyes wide with panic. Her double raised a hand as if to stop her, lips moving frantically. "Don't follow it." When Mara blinked, the figure was gone. The hall ahead waited, darker than ever, the dragging sound fading into its depths. And the choice pressed against her chest like a weight: obey the warning, or follow. Mara clutched the banister so tightly her knuckles burned white. The woman's grin at the foot of the stairs seemed fixed, stretched too wide, as if carved into her face. "I'm not staying," Mara whispered, though her words cracked like glass. "You can't keep me here." The woman tilted her head, the gesture jerky and wrong, like a puppet tugged by strings. Her nightdress swayed though there was no breeze. "You've already stayed," the rasp came, echoing up the stairwell. "We've been waiting." Mara's body screamed at her to turn back, to hide, to shut herself into one of the upstairs rooms no matter how dreadful. But some terrible pull dragged her forward. Step by step she descended. The air thickened as she went lower, damp and heavy, carrying the scent of iron and mildew. The storm outside sounded muffled now, distant, as though she were sinking underwater. When she reached the bottom step, the woman was gone. The entry hall stretched ahead, but it had changed. The wallpaper was stripped bare, plaster walls cracked and flaking. The floorboards gleamed dark with stains, too irregular to be water damage. The front door still stood in its place. Her breath caught freedom, so close. She bolted forward, fumbling with the knob. It didn't budge. Not even a rattle this time. The brass was icy cold, burning against her palm. Behind her, a floorboard groaned. She spun. The hall leading deeper into the house yawned wide, darker than before. From that darkness, the sound came again, dragging, scraping, as if something heavy was being pulled across wood. A slow rhythm, steady, patient. Her throat went dry. She forced herself to speak, though her voice came out in a whisper. "Who's there?" The dragging paused. Then a new sound began, footsteps, bare feet slapping softly against the boards. They came closer, unhurried. Mara stumbled back against the door, her palms flat against the unyielding wood. Stay away, she begged, voice cracking. Please, just stay away. Mara's breath hitched, her lungs tight as though the house itself squeezed the air from her. The warning voice, the echo of herself, still rang in her ears. Don't follow it. But the sound of dragging chains, slow and deliberate, pulled her attention like a hook in her chest. Her body shook, yet her feet moved forward, step by step into the hall. The shadows thickened the deeper she went, swallowing what little stormlight crept through the front windows. The air grew colder, heavy with the scent of iron and damp soil. The dragging sound continued ahead, steady and patient, always just beyond sight. She whispered as she walked, her words quivering. Where are you taking me? The sound paused. Then came 3 sharp knocks against the wall ahead, rhythmic, deliberate. Mara froze. Lightning flared outside, leaking briefly through a cracked window at the hall's end. In that momentary light, she saw the outline of a door she hadn't noticed before, tall, narrow, almost blending into the plaster. The dragging resumed, louder now, directly behind the door. Mara's hand trembled as she reached out. The knob was old iron, slick with condensation. She swallowed hard hammering, and turned it. The door creaked open into a staircase descending into blackness. A draft of cold air rose to meet her, carrying with it the unmistakable smell of earth freshly turned, and something older. Metallic, sharp. No, she whispered, backing a step. I'm not going down there. But behind her, the hallway groaned. The doors lining the walls rattled violently, knobs twisting as though unseen hands tried to force their way out. One door cracked open an inch, and pale fingers, too long, too many joints, slipped through, scraping at the frame. Mara's scream caught in her throat. The doors slammed shut in unison, the sound like a gunshot. The only way left open was the narrow stair yawning downward. Her legs shook as she placed her foot on the first step. The wood didn't creak. She gripped the wall, guiding herself deeper into the dark. The air pressed tighter, the smell of soil thickening until she gagged. At the bottom, faint candlelight flickered, revealing stone walls slick with moisture. The room was wide, a cellar of sorts, though it felt more like a crypt. Shadows shifted along the edges where the candlelight couldn't reach, and in the center stood a wooden table. On it lay another mirror, larger than the one upstairs, its surface fractured with a web of cracks. Faces pressed against the glass from within, distorted and pale, mouths opening and closing in silent pleas. Mara stumbled forward, drawn despite her terror. Among the shifting faces, one froze. Her own. Her reflection's lips moved soundlessly, then again, forming words she could understand though no sound reached her. Run. The dragging began again, this time inside the cellar, circling her. Mara bolted. She sprinted across the stone floor, her shoes splashing through shallow puddles. The figure moved faster now, its chains ringing out, rattling wildly, its footsteps a pounding rhythm closing in. She reached the door and pulled. The wood resisted, swollen tight in its frame. She yanked harder, the iron handle cutting into her palms. Behind her, the chains lifted, whistling through the air. With a cry, she threw her whole weight into the handle. The wood splintered, the door giving way just as something slammed into the wall where she'd stood. Stone cracked, dust raining from the ceiling. Mara hurled herself through the doorway, landing hard on her knees. She scrambled up and slammed the door shut behind her. Silence, no chains, no dragging. The air here was colder, thicker. She lifted her head. She wasn't in another cellar. She was in a hallway, and she knew it immediately. It was the same hallway upstairs, lined with doors, rose-patterned wallpaper curling, carpet worn thin. But this one was underground. Mara's pulse thundered in her ears, each beat threatening to drown her. The dragging circled the room slowly, scraping stone, always just beyond the flickering edge of candlelight. She turned in frantic circles, trying to catch sight of it, but the shadows shifted too quickly, like they bent around something solid she could not see. Her eyes landed on the cracked mirror. Her reflection stared back, pale and frantic, the same terror etched across its face. The lips moved again, soundless but clear. Run. Now. Mara staggered closer to the mirror, her shoes skidding on damp stone. "I'm trying," she whispered, voice breaking. "I don't know where to go." The faces crowding the glass pressed closer, their mouths open in silent screams. They looked at her, through her, as if she were meant to understand. The dragging stopped. The silence was worse. Slowly, Mara turned her head. At the far edge of the candlelight, a shape resolved. Tall, crooked, human but not. A man, or what was once one, its limbs too long, back hunched, skin as pale as parchment stretched thin over bone. Rusted chains hung from its wrists, dragging against the stone floor. Its face was wrong. Hollow sockets where eyes should be, and a mouth that seemed sewn shut with black thread. Mara's breath hitched. She stumbled backward into the mirror, the cracked glass rattling under her palms. Her reflection stared at her with desperate urgency. Mouthing again, "Don't let him touch you." The figure lurched forward, chains scraping sparks across the floor. Each step echoed like thunder, deliberate, heavy. Mara darted left, skirting along the cellar wall, her eyes searching wildly for an exit. There, at the far corner, a door barely taller than she was, its frame warped and swollen with moisture. The chains scraped closer. Her reflection slammed both hands against the glass, her face twisted with rage. "Run!" When she opened her eyes, every door stood perfectly still. Only one remained open, the one at the very end of the hallway. A dim, golden light spilled from it, warm like firelight. Mara swallowed hard, every nerve screaming to run the other way. But behind her, the warped cellar door she'd come through had vanished, replaced by more rose wallpaper. There was only forward. Her feet carried her, step by reluctant step, until she stood before the glowing doorway. Inside, the light flickered like a hearth fire. For a moment, she felt a wave of relief, the thought of comfort, of escape. Then she heard it. Laughter, not joyful, but brittle, layered. Dozens of voices laughing at once. All slightly out of time. Mara's skin crawled. She leaned forward, peering through the crack. The room beyond was a dining hall. A long wooden table stretched wall to wall, lined with chairs. And in every seat sat a figure, pale and gaunt, their faces turned toward her, mouths split wide in jagged grins as their laughter spilled into the air. At the head of the table sat the woman in the lavender nightdress. Her black eyes gleamed, her smile patient. "Mara," she rasped, gesturing to the empty chair beside her. "You're just in time." Mara leaned against the warped door, her chest heaving. The silence pressed in so tightly she almost missed the faint hum in the walls. A low vibration, like the whole place was breathing. She pushed herself upright, eyes darting down the length of the corridor. It stretched impossibly long, lined with doors identical to those upstairs, rose wallpaper peeling in curls, faded carpet swallowing her footsteps. But no windows, no light except for a pale glow that seemed to seep from the seams of the doors themselves. Her throat tightened. It's the same hallway, just buried alive. She reached for the nearest door, desperate for an exit. The knob was ice cold, slick under her palm. She twisted. Locked. She moved to the next. Locked. The third rattled slightly, as though something on the other side rattled it back. She jerked her hand away. A whisper rose, thin and childlike, threading through the corridor. "Mara." She froze. The sound came from behind one of the doors further down. Her name again, more insistent. "Mara. Come play." Her legs shook as she forced herself forward, each step sinking into the carpet as if it were damp. She reached the door the voice had come from. The glow from beneath it pulsed faintly, warm and warm. Her hand hovered above the knob. She didn't want to touch it. She didn't want to know what waited. Behind her, a different door creaked open an inch. She spun, heart slamming. Darkness breathed out from the gap, carrying the stench of rot. "Mara." This voice was lower, rasping, almost a growl. "We've saved you a place." Her breath came in ragged bursts. Every door down the hallway began to rattle, knobs twisting violently. The wallpaper peeled itself further, curling back to reveal gouges in the plaster beneath. Long, deep scratches like something had clawed to get out. She clamped her hands over her ears, squeezing her eyes shut. Stop, stop, stop. The corridor went silent. The woman reached her, stopping only a breath away. Her hand lifted, long, skeletal fingers hovering near Mara's cheek, not touching, just trembling in the air between them. You look so tired, she whispered. So weary. Let us take care of you. The faces at the table leaned closer, mouths opening wider. Their laughter fractured into shrill giggles, groans, moans, all layered, all wrong. The lavender woman tilted her head again. All you have to do is sit. Mara's vision blurred with tears. I won't, she choked. I won't sit there. The woman's smile didn't falter. Then you will stand forever. The candles on the table flared, flames stretching high and wild. Shadows leapt across the walls, forming writhing shapes that reached for her. The figures at the table pounded their fists against the wood in unison, the sound reverberating like a heartbeat. Mara bolted. She darted into the room, skirting the table, ignoring the clawed hands that reached for her. A chair toppled as one of the figures lunged, but she ducked beneath it, scrambling toward a door at the far end of the hall. Her hands slammed against it. Locked. Behind her, the chanting laughter rose to a roar, and the woman's voice, low and calm, slithered through the noise. You can't leave supper unfinished. Mara's breath caught in her throat. The figures at the long table laughed in uneven bursts, their gaunt bodies rocking as though the sound convulsed them. Their faces were pale, skin drawn tight across skulls, teeth too sharp and too many showing in their grins. The smell hit her next, rot, sour and metallic, like spoiled meat left too long in the heat. Her stomach lurched, bow rising. At the head of the table, the woman in the lavender nightdress lifted her bony hand. The laughter died instantly, as though cut by a blade. Dozens of black, hollow eyes turned toward Mara in perfect unison. Sit, the woman rasped. Her smile didn't move, didn't soften. It was fixed, as though her face had been carved to hold it forever. Mara shook her head violently, pressing back against the doorframe. No. No, I don't belong here. The woman tilted her head, puppet-like, her dark hair spilling over one shoulder. But you do. You always have. She pointed one finger at the empty chair beside her, its surface polished and waiting. That's your place. Mara's knees buckled. Her whole body screamed to run, but there was nowhere to go. Behind her, the hallway had dissolved into shadow. The doorframe itself trembled, groaning like wood under strain. One of the figures near the center of the table leaned forward. His jaw clicked unnaturally as he spoke, voice rasping like dry leaves. She doesn't remember yet. Another figure, a woman with tangled hair and lips split open into a bloody grin, giggled. She will. They all do. Mara pressed her hands over her ears, shaking her head. Stop. Please stop. The woman in the lavender dress rose from her seat. The laughter began again, softer this time, a steady chorus that filled the air like a chant. She moved slowly down the table, each step soundless, her eyes locked on Mara. Mara stumbled back, hitting the doorframe. The wood splintered beneath her shoulder. She wrenched herself free, slamming her shoulder into the door one final time. It cracked, splitting down the center. With a howl of desperation, she shoved her body through the jagged gap, splinters cutting her arms as she spilled into the darkness beyond. The laughter cut off instantly. Silence swallowed her. She lay on cold stone, her body trembling, blood trickling from her arms. Slowly, she lifted her head. She wasn't in another hallway. She wasn't in the cellar. She was in a bedroom. The same bedroom she'd first entered upstairs. The quilt smoothed, the mirror standing tall, her reflection waiting for her. But this time, the reflection wasn't mimicking her. It was moving on its own, a grim smile curling across its face. Closer now, it whispered, though no sound should have passed through the glass. Almost home. Mara's fists pounded the door, wood rattling in its frame. Open! She screamed, her voice raw. The knob didn't move, her frantic pulling only scraping her palms raw. The laughter swelled behind her, every figure at the table pounding their fists in rhythm, the wood booming like drums. The sound reverberated through her bones until she thought her ribs might crack. The lavender woman's voice cut clean through the chaos, calm and steady. You can't go back. You can't run forward. You can only sit. Mara spun, chest heaving. The figures around the table had risen now, chairs scraping back, their gaunt bodies swaying as though held by invisible strings. Dozens of black eyes fixed on her. Stay. They moaned together, their voices weaving into a single terrible harmony. The lavender woman spread her arms, her nightdress flowing as though in water. Do you hear them? They're so hungry. Don't be cruel, Mara. Don't deny them. Mara's throat tightened. I don't know you. I don't know any of this. The woman's head tilted with that awful puppet jerk. You don't need to know. You only need to remember. The guests lurched forward in unison, their hands reaching, nails black and cracked. Mara screamed and kicked at the locked door, her heel striking until the wood splintered. She shoved with all her strength, the frame groaning, but the door refused to give way. The first of the guests reached her. A hand, ice-cold and bony, clamped around her wrist. Mara shrieked and tore herself free, the skin burning where the touch lingered. Another hand brushed her shoulder. Another tangled in her hair. No! She cried, thrashing wildly. Let me go! Her reflection's voice thundered in her mind, an echo she could not see, only feel. Don't let them touch you. The mirror shuddered. Cracks spidered across its surface, the glass groaning under invisible weight. Faces flickered briefly within each fracture, those she'd seen before, pale and desperate, screaming without sound. They pressed against the cracks as though begging her to break it. The reflection's black eyes narrowed. Don't listen to them. They're already gone. Mara's hand lifted, trembling, toward the mirror. She didn't know if she meant to touch it, to smash it, or to plead with the trapped faces inside. The floor shuddered beneath her feet. The dragging chains thundered closer. The reflection's smile split wider, stretching too far for a human face. Choose quickly. Mara staggered to her feet, her arms stinging with splinters. The room felt suffocatingly familiar. Same quilt, same dresser, same tall mirror looming like a doorway. But the reflection inside it. It wasn't her. Not anymore. The woman in the glass wore Mara's face, but her smile was sharp, wrong, stretched into something predatory. Her eyes gleamed black, like the supper guests. Mara pressed herself against the wall, shaking her head. No. You're not me. You're not me. The reflection tilted its head, movements unnervingly deliberate, as if savoring the panic. I am you. The part you keep trying to run from. The part that remembers. Mara's chest heaved. Remember what? The smile widened. The house. The table. The chair that's always been yours. Mara stumbled closer despite herself, pulled by the low vibration of the voice, by the way the glass seemed to breathe in time with her own lungs. I'm not staying. I'm leaving. I don't care what you say. The reflection laughed, soft and brittle. The sound rippled through the room, making the lamp flicker though it wasn't lit. There is no leaving. Not really. Haven't you noticed? The walls groaned. Faintly, from beyond, Mara could hear it again, the dragging of chains, slow, patient, circling. Her stomach dropped. The reflection leaned closer, pressing its hand flat against the inside of the glass. Every door brings you back here. Every hall folds into this room. The house is you, Mara. You've only forgotten that you're its heart. Mara's breath came shallow, uneven. She shook her head violently. No, I don't belong here. I had a car. A road. My life had, the reflection whispered. Its tone was almost gentle. But you drove too far. You came home. Mara's knees buckled. She clutched the bedpost for balance. The reflection's lips moved again, forming a single word that cut through her terror like a blade. Stay. Mara's hand hovered inches from the glass, her fingertips trembling. The cracks spidered wider with every breath, the mirror straining as though it could no longer hold the weight of what pressed inside. The faces stared at her, mouths opening and closing in frantic silence, their eyes begging, pleading. Behind her, The chains dragged closer, louder, each scrape rattling the walls. The air thickened until she could barely breathe. Her reflection's voice cut through the pressure, low and commanding. "Don't touch it. You'll regret it." Mara's pulse hammered in her ears. She clenched her teeth, hot tears streaking down her face. "I don't care. I can't." Her palms slammed against the mirror. The glass exploded outward, shards spinning into the air like deadly confetti. A scream tore through the room, not hers, but hundreds of voices released at once, rising into a deafening wail. The wind of it knocked Mara to her knees, her arms shielding her head as fragments rained down. The faces poured free. Wisps of pale light swirled around her, rushing past in a torrent. They filled the room, the hallway, the ceiling, spiraling upward into the house like smoke pulled into a vent. Some vanished into the walls, others straight through the floorboards, leaving the air vibrating with their echoes. The reflection, the twisted, black-eyed version of her, remained. Half of its face was gone now. Shattered with the glass, its form flickering like a dying flame. "You don't know what you've done," it hissed, its voice fractured and doubled, as though two beings spoke at once. They weren't meant to leave. Mara scrambled to her feet, blood dripping from cuts on her arms. "Then let me go with them." The reflection's form lunged forward, pressing against the broken frame, trying to push itself into her world. Its half-face split into a grin, jagged and raw. "You're not like them. You never were." The chains slammed against the doorframe. The pale, eyeless figure from the cellar shoved its way into the room, its sewn mouth stretching against the threads with guttural snarls. Rusted links dragged across the floor, sparking where they struck wood. Mara backed against the bed, her heart thundering. The house groaned with the pressure, the floor shuddering beneath her. The reflection clawed at the frame from inside. The chain-draped figure lumbered closer from outside, and in the chaos, the freed voices swirled once more. They whispered together, finally audible, filling her ears with one urgent plea: "Run to the attic." Mara gasped, spinning toward the hallway. She didn't hesitate. She bolted, slamming past the figure's swinging chains, ducking beneath its outstretched arm. The shadows clawed at her as she ran, but she pushed onward, her feet pounding the carpeted stairs. The attic. She didn't know why. She didn't know what waited there. But the house itself seemed to shudder, resisting her ascent. And still, she climbed. "No," Mara gasped, staggering to her feet. "No, no, no," the voices surged around her, louder than ever, no longer whispers but cries. "Shut it! Shut it before it climbs," she turned. At the far side of the attic, a hatch door hung from rusted hinges. A heavy iron latch waited beside it. Mara ran, stumbling across the boards. She grabbed the latch just as the figure's pale hands gripped the attic opening, its nails splitting wood. With a scream, she swung the latch into place. The hatch slammed shut with a reverberating crack. Silence. Her chest heaved. She sank to the floor, pressing her forehead against her knees. For one blessed moment, there was nothing, no chains, no dragging. No voices. Only her own ragged breathing. But then, from the dark rafters above, something else stirred. Not the rattling of chains. Not the moan of the house. Breathing. Slow. Deep. Coming from the shadows just beyond her sight. Mara froze. She lifted her head, heart hammering. She was not alone in the attic. Mara's lungs burned as she climbed, the house groaning beneath every frantic step. The stairs seemed steeper than they should have been, each riser taller, the next step always just out of reach. She clung to the railing, splinters biting her palm, pulling herself upward with sheer desperation. Behind her, chains rattled violently, striking the walls as the eyeless figure lumbered after her. Each drag of iron against wood vibrated through the staircase, sending dust cascading from the ceiling. Faster, she hissed at herself, teeth clenched. Don't look back. Just faster. The second floor passed in a blur. She caught only glimpses of the hallway, the doors slamming themselves shut as she raced by. Wallpaper peeling in strips like skin. At the end of the hall, a narrow door gaped open, revealing a ladder that climbed higher still. The attic. The voices swirled around her, breathless and urgent. Up. Up. Don't stop now. Mara hurled herself through the doorway, grabbing the ladder rungs. The wood was slick, damp with something she didn't want to name. She hauled herself upward, her feet slipping once, catching just before she fell. The chain-draped figure reached the base. Its sewn mouth ripped wider, threads snapping with wet pops, a guttural howl tearing free for the first time. The sound vibrated through her bones, nearly loosening her grip. She scrambled upward, refusing to look down. Her arms screamed, her legs trembling with every desperate pull. The ladder seemed endless, her muscles begging her to stop, but still she climbed. Finally, her hand hit the attic floor. She dragged herself up, rolling onto the boards. They were warped, uneven, covered in dust thick enough to choke. Cobwebs hung in curtains from the rafters, swaying in the draft that seeped from the roof's gaps. She coughed, pushing herself to her knees. Her body shook with exhaustion. The ladder rattled violently. Chains scraped against the rungs, each strike ringing like a bell. Mara held her breath, straining to listen. The sound was unmistakable, slow, deliberate inhalations, followed by long exhalations that rattled like wind through broken glass. Whatever it was large. And it was directly above her. Her eyes darted upward. The rafters loomed high, lost in shadow. She could just make out the thick beams crossing beneath the slanted roof, but nothing more. No movement. No figure. Only that steady, cavernous breathing. Her pulse raced. She whispered, barely audible, "Who's up there?" The breathing stopped. The silence pressed heavy, absolute. Dust motes hung in the thin light filtering through a gap in the roof. Mara's throat tightened, her body frozen between fight and flight. Then, from the far corner, a voice. It was soft, almost tender, but wrong in its cadence. "You made it, Mara. You climbed, just like before." She whipped toward the sound. A chair sat there, old, rocking gently though she hadn't seen it move. On the seat lay a bundle of fabric, gray with age. At first she thought it was just rags. But then it shifted. A hand emerged, thin and colorless, the fingers too long. They curled over the armrest like roots digging into soil. The bundle sat up. It was not rags but a dress, lavender, faded, its lace collar frayed. The woman from downstairs unfolded herself, impossibly tall even in the cramped attic. Her hair spilled in tangled ropes across her shoulders. Her face hidden in shadow. Mara staggered back. No, you can't be here. I locked you out. I locked the door." The woman's laugh was dry, hollow. "Doors don't matter. Not here." She tilted her head. "You should know that by now." From the rafters above, something shifted. A shape uncoiled, massive, black against the weak light, limbs stretching along the beams. It crawled slowly, deliberately, its claws clicking against the wood. Mara's stomach twisted. "What is that?" The lavender woman's grin gleamed faintly. "That is what waits when you climb too high. You've woken it now, child. It knows your name." As if on cue, the thing in the rafters spoke. Its voice was a chorus of whispers, overlapping, broken. "Mara. Mara. Mara." Her head spun. She stumbled toward the wall, searching desperately for another way out. There was none. No ladder, no hatch, no window wide enough to escape through. The woman stepped closer, her presence filling the room. "Don't run anymore. Sit. Be still. Let it take you home." Above, the creature descended. Its claws hooked into the beams, lowering its body inch by inch. Its face came into view, if it could be called a face. A gaping hollow where features should have been, only darkness spilling from it like smoke. "Mara," it whispered again, the sound vibrating through the attic boards. Her legs shook so violently she thought they might fail her. She pressed back against the wall, her voice cracking. No, this isn't real. This isn't real." The lavender woman leaned close, her breath cold against Mara's ear. "Then wake up." The attic trembled as the creature lowered itself, claws clicking against the beams, joints bending at angles that defied nature. Its massive body moved with a dreadful patience, each motion deliberate, as though savoring the inevitable. Mara pressed herself flat against the wall, heart hammering in her chest. The lavender woman stood to her left, serene, smiling as though watching a child's first steps. "Don't fight it," the woman rasped, voice low and even. "You've fought long enough." The creature's head, or the place where a head should have been, tilted toward Mara. Its hollow face gaped wider, threads of shadow spilling into the air like smoke. The chorus of whispers filled the attic again, her name tumbling from its abyss in overlapping tones. "Mara! Mara! Mara!" Her hands clawed at the boards behind her, splinters digging into her palms. "Stay back!" she cried, though her voice broke on the words. The lavender woman laughed softly, brittle and papery. "It doesn't listen. It never listens. It only takes." The creature dropped lower. Its claws pierced the floorboards, leaving cracks that radiated outward like veins. The air thickened, damp with the stench of earth and rot. Mara's chest tightened, panic clawing at her throat. She stumbled sideways, her shoulder colliding with a stack of old trunks. The lids rattled open on their own. Inside, she glimpsed clothing folded neatly, lavender dresses, dozens of them, identical to the woman's. Each one stained at the collar, dark patches dried to brittle brown. Her stomach lurched. The lavender woman stepped closer, towering now, her black eyes burning with hunger. "There is no running, Mara. There never was. You circle, you fall, you climb. Always back to us. Always back home." The creature descended fully, its hulking body crashing onto the boards with a quake that nearly threw Mara from her feet. Its claws scraped grooves into the wood, pulling it toward her. She bolted. Her feet slipped on the warped boards, but momentum carried her across the attic. She searched frantically for an opening, any opening. At the far side, between sagging rafters, she spotted a small round window, its glass caked with grime. She lunged for it, ramming her shoulder into the frame. The wood groaned, the glass cracking under her weight. Behind her, the whispers roared into a unified howl. The creature surged forward, claws gouging deep, the attic trembling as though about to collapse. "Mara!" It thundered, the single word exploding from its void in 1,000 voices at once. She threw her weight against the window again. The glass shattered outward, cold night air slashing her face. Without thinking, she climbed through. The world tipped. For a heartbeat she was weightless, falling into blackness, the house shrinking above her. The lavender woman's smile burned in her vision, the creature's howls rattling her bones as she plunged. Then, impact. She hit the ground hard, the wind knocked from her lungs. She gasped, coughing, her hands clawing at damp grass. She opened her eyes. She was outside. The house loomed behind her, its dark windows watching, the broken attic window gaping like a wound. Lightning illuminated the roofline. The storm still raged, but the porch light glowed steadily, warm and inviting, as though nothing had happened, and her car sat in the driveway. Waiting. Mara staggered to her feet, her legs trembling so badly she could barely keep upright. The rain drenched her hair, plastered her jacket to her skin, but the cold felt almost cleansing after the suffocating air of the house. She fixed her eyes on the car, its shape gleaming wet in the lightning. She half ran, half stumbled across the gravel drive. Each step away from the porch made her chest loosen, her breaths coming sharper, quicker. She fumbled her keys from her pocket, nearly dropping them in the mud. The house loomed behind her. She could feel its gaze pressing against her back, those endless dark windows watching. The porch light flickered once, dimmed, then steadied again, as if mocking her. Her trembling fingers jammed the key into the driver's side lock. She yanked the door open and hurled herself inside, slamming it shut behind her. The familiar scent of the car, old fabric, faint coffee, flooded her senses, grounding her. She shoved the key into the ignition. The engine sputtered. Once. Twice. Come on, please," she whispered, twisting harder. On the third attempt, the car roared to life. Relief hit her so hard she nearly sobbed. She threw it into reverse, gravel crunching beneath the tires as she backed down the drive. Her eyes lifted to the rearview mirror. The house filled it. But something was wrong. The porch light was no longer steady. It pulsed, brighter and brighter, like a heartbeat. Her stomach tightened. She pressed the gas harder, the car lurching toward the road. Then the radio crackled. She hadn't touched it. She hadn't even turned it on. But static hissed through the speakers, rising in pitch until a voice broke through, thin, distorted, but unmistakable. Her own. "Mara," it whispered, breathless. "You didn't leave. You never left." Her hands clenched the wheel. "No. No, you're lying." The voice on the radio laughed softly. It wasn't her laugh. It was the brittle, papery sound she'd heard at the supper table. The headlights flickered. The dashboard lights blinked out. For a moment, the car was swallowed in darkness, coasting blindly down the slick road. When the lights surged back on, Mara's breath caught in her throat. She was no longer on the county road. She was back at the driveway. The car idled at the base of the gravel path, the house looming above, its porch light glowing steady and patient. "No," she choked, shaking her head violently. She slammed the gear into reverse, then drive, tires spinning uselessly in place. The wheel fought her, heavy, unresponsive, as though the car itself had turned against her. The radio whispered again, softer now, almost soothing. "Just come inside. It's warmer there." Her tears blurred the windshield. Her hands beat against the wheel. "No! Let me go! Let me go!" The porch light brightened once more. The car's engine cut out, and the silence returned. Mara sat frozen in the dead car, her breath fogging the glass. The rain battered the roof in steady sheets, but inside there was only silence, heavy and absolute. She twisted the key again, desperation raw in her throat. Nothing. Not even the weak sputter she'd heard before. The porch light glowed brighter, spilling into the drive, stretching farther than a single bulb should allow. It reached across the gravel like fingers of gold, curling toward the car. "No!" she whispered, voice shaking. "No, no, no!" The light flared, and the locks on her car doors clicked down. Her stomach lurched. She grabbed the handle, yanking furiously, but it refused to budge. She tried the passenger side. Locked. Every door sealed with sharp metallic finality. Her reflection in the windshield shifted. For one horrifying instant, it wasn't her face looking back, but the black-eyed grin of the lavender woman. The lips moved soundless. "Come home." The radio hissed alive again, static building until the speakers rattled. The voices rose from it, dozens at once, layered and warped. "Stay, stay, stay." Her hands slapped the glass. She screamed, throat raw, tears streaking down her face. "I don't belong here. Let me out!" The porch light pulsed brighter, and the air inside the car thickened. The smell of damp wood and iron filled her nostrils. She gagged, coughing violently, her lungs fighting for air. Then came the sound, the dragging of chains, but closer, impossibly close. The seatbelt strap jerked tight across her chest, pulling her back into the seat. "No!" she screamed, clawing at the buckle. The button refused to release, as if welded shut. The strap dug deeper, cutting into her ribs. From the corner of her eye, she saw it, the eyeless figure, half-formed in the passenger seat. Its body oozed out of the shadows, chains snaking across its arms, its mouth gaping wider, threads snapping one by one. The open doorway yawned before Mara, warm light spilling into the storm. It was the same porch light glow she had seen before, but softer now, gentler, like a hearth waiting for its keeper. Her soaked clothes clung to her skin, her teeth chattered, but the light beckoned her forward with a comfort that nearly broke her resolve. She hesitated at the threshold, clutching the frame. "I won't," she whispered, her voice trembling. "I won't go back in." From inside a sound stirred, the scrape of chairs, the shuffle of many feet. Then came the voices, low and eager, a chorus of whispers overlapping in greedy anticipation. "She's back! She came back! Mara's home!" Her chest tightened. She backed one step, rain washing cold across her face. The gravel drive stretched behind her, but her car sat dark and useless. The road beyond seemed swallowed by black, gone as though it had never existed. The lavender woman appeared in the doorway. Her nightdress clung damply to her frame, though no rain had touched her. Her smile stretched wide, black eyes gleaming with triumph. "You see?" she rasped softly. "There was never a choice." She extended her bony hand. "Come, child. Supper's waiting." Mara shook her head, tears streaking her cheeks. "I'm not staying. I won't sit at your table." The woman's grin didn't falter. "Then you will stand until your legs rot beneath you." The whispers inside swelled, the unseen figures moaning in hunger, in delight. "Sit, Mara. Sit with us. We've saved your place." The porch boards creaked beneath her feet, not from her own weight, but from something beneath, shifting, rising. She looked down in horror as pale hands pushed up between the slats, skeletal fingers clutching her ankles. She screamed and kicked free, stumbling back into the rain. The hands retreated instantly, slithering back into the dark wood as if they had never been. Her scream tore from her throat, piercing and raw. She thrashed, beating against the window. The figure leaned closer, the stink of rot filling the car. Its sewn mouth split wider, black drool spilling as it whispered through torn stitches, "Home." The porch light exploded. Blinding white engulfed the car, searing her eyes, forcing her to shield her face. The pressure against her chest vanished. The smell dissipated. When her vision cleared, the passenger seat was empty, and the car door stood open. Rain pelted her skin. The house loomed above, its porch glowing warm and steady, the front door ajar as if waiting for her. The radio whispered one last time before going silent. "Inside, Mara. Where you belong." Her legs moved before her mind caught up. She stumbled out of the car, feet crunching the gravel, and slowly, as if in a dream, she walked back up the porch steps. The door opened wider. The lavender woman's head snapped to the side with a jerky twitch, her grin faltering for the first time. "Don't run." But Mara did. She bolted off the porch, sprinting across the lawn. Her shoes sank into mud, her breath tearing through her chest. She didn't know where she was going, only away. Away from the house, away from its windows, away from the voices. The storm swallowed her. Trees closed in, the forest pressing from every side. Branches clawed at her arms, wet leaves slapped her face. Still she ran, faster, harder, until her legs burned. At last the trees broke. She stumbled into a clearing, gasping, her body shaking with exhaustion, and froze. There it was, the house. Its porch light burned steady, the door still open, the lavender woman waiting in the frame. Mara's knees buckled. She fell into the mud, sobbing, the weight of despair crushing her. The woman's voice drifted on the storm, calm, assured. "You cannot leave home, Mara. You always come back." The house groaned, the earth trembling beneath her, and the front door opened wider. Mara pushed herself up from the mud, her arms and legs shaking so hard she could barely stand. The house loomed only yards away, its windows glowing faintly now as if lit from within. The storm seemed to quiet around it, the rain falling softer, the thunder fading, as though nature itself bowed to its presence. She staggered backward, her breath ragged. "No," she rasped. "I won't go back in. You can't make me." The lavender woman remained in the doorway, her shadow stretched long across the porch. Her smile returned, calm and patient. "You've said that before, child. Every time." The words pierced Mara like ice. Every time. Her stomach turned. She remembered flashes, dreams, maybe, or something older. Her reflection whispering, "Don't follow it." Faces in the glass, pressed against the cracks, begging her to run. The supper table, voices chanting her name as if she had sat there once before. "No," she whispered, shaking her head violently. "That's not me. That's not my life." The ground trembled beneath her. Roots broke through the mud, pale and bony, curling like fingers around her shoes. She screamed and tore herself free, stumbling forward. Her eyes darted wildly, searching the storm-lit clearing. A jagged branch lay half buried in the mud, a splintered weapon, crude but solid. She seized it, gripping it with both hands until her knuckles bled white. The lavender woman tilted her head, her grin widening. "What will you do with that, little one? Strike the walls? Hurt the house? You can't kill what you are. I'm not you!" Mara screamed, raising the branch like a spear. "I'm not this. I don't belong to you." The whispers surged from the open doorway, furious now, no longer coaxing but commanding. "Stay. Stay. Sit." The porch light flared. Shadows poured across the lawn, crawling toward her like a flood of black water. Faces flickered in the dark, mouths open, teeth bared, hands reaching. Mara braced herself. Her whole body trembled, but she lifted the branch higher, teeth clenched against her fear. The lavender woman stepped forward, descending the porch. Her bare feet left no mark in the mud. She spread her arms wide, the storm parting around her. "Strike me, then," she whispered. "Prove you are not mine." Mara screamed and charged, the branch raised high. The shadows surged to meet her, icy hands clawing at her skin, but she pushed through them, her feet pounding the earth. She swung with all her strength. The branch cracked against the lavender woman's chest. The sound was sharp, splintering, like wood shattering. For a heartbeat, the woman's smile faltered. Her body lurched backward, her arms flailing wide. The house roared. The ground shook violently, the trees bending toward the earth. Windows shattered, voices shrieking in fury, 1,000 screams merging into one. The woman's eyes blazed, no longer calm, no longer patient. She hissed, her voice echoing through every wall, every beam, every bone of the house. "You cannot break what you are." The porch light exploded, plunging the clearing into darkness, and Mara fell into it, swallowed whole. Mara hit the ground hard, her lungs burning, the screams still raw in her throat. She coughed, forcing air back into her chest. Her eyes fluttered open, searching desperately for the storm, for the forest, for anything familiar. But she was not outside. She was on the couch. The same couch from the living room. Its lace doilies rested perfectly on the arms, the quilt folded neatly across the back. The wallpaper peeled in familiar curls. The faint smell of lavender hung in the air, cloying and sweet. "No," she whispered, pushing herself upright. Her hands shook. Blood from the cuts on her palms smeared across the upholstery. But when she looked again, the fabric was clean, untouched. She stumbled into the hall. The mirror was there, crooked on the wall. She didn't dare look at it, but in her peripheral vision, she saw her reflection staring straight at her, unmoving, unblinking. Her voice cracked. "Not again. Please, not again." She ran for the front door. Her hand gripped the knob, twisting with all her strength. It opened easily. Lightning flashed outside, illuminating the porch. Rain hammered the boards. The glow of the porch light spread warmly across the steps. Her car sat in the drive, waiting. "No!" Her knees buckled. She clung to the door frame. "It's the same. It's always the same." From behind her, soft footsteps echoed in the hall. She turned. The lavender woman stood at the base of the stairs, her head tilted, her smile patient once more, as if none of the defiance, none of the struggle, had ever happened. "Sit," she rasped gently, almost sweetly. "Rest now. Supper's waiting." The voices began again. Low, eager, hungry, rising from the walls, from the ceiling, from beneath the floorboards. Mara screamed and bolted through the door. She leapt down the steps, splashing into the gravel drive. She ran for her car, yanking the door open, throwing herself inside. Her keys trembled in her hand as she shoved them into the ignition. The engine sputtered once, twice, then roared to life. She reversed, tires spinning on the wet gravel, headlights slicing into the trees. The road opened ahead of her, slick and narrow. Her breath came in ragged bursts. "Go," she pleaded. "Go, go, go," the radio hissed alive. Her own voice whispered from the speakers, calm, steady, resigned. "You'll be back." Her hands shook on the wheel. "No. not this time. But when lightning lit the road ahead, her stomach dropped. The house stood there, not behind her, not to the side. Directly in front of her, the driveway stretching up toward its porch, the light glowing steady, the door open wide. The wheel turned in her hands without her command. The car rolled smoothly back into the drive, gravel crunching beneath the tires. Mara sobbed, helpless, as the house welcomed her home again. The car came to a gentle stop at the top of the drive, as though guided by an unseen hand. Mara's fingers clung to the wheel, her knuckles bloodless, her eyes wide and hollow. The porch light glowed steadily, unwavering, its warmth spreading into the storm like a beacon. Her chest heaved, each breath trembling. "This isn't real," she whispered, though the words tasted like ashes. "It can't be real." The door of the house creaked open wider, and for the first time, she saw them clearly. Figures stood inside, not just the lavender woman, but others. Dozens. Their shapes blurred by the storm's haze, yet distinct enough, tall, short, men, women, even children. All watching. All waiting. Their faces glowed faintly, pale against the darkness. Her hands dropped from the wheel. Her body shook with despair. "How many times?" she choked. "How many times have I done this?" The radio answered, its static soft, almost kind. A man's voice, tired, broken, whispered, "Too many to count." Mara froze. The voice was familiar. Her father's. Long dead, buried years ago. Her lips trembled. "Dad?" Static crackled. The voice returned, fainter now, as if buried beneath waves. "You never left, sweetheart. None of us did." Her throat burned. She slammed her fists against the dashboard. "No! I'm not!" The headlights flickered. The windshield fogged, filling with condensation until words traced themselves across the glass, written by invisible fingers. "You always come back." Mara's sobs broke free, raw and helpless. She shoved the door open and stumbled into the rain. The gravel bit into her knees as she fell, her palms sinking into mud. She forced herself up, every movement screaming with pain and exhaustion. The lavender woman stood at the top of the porch steps. Her black eyes glowed faintly now, like coals. "You see?" she rasped. "The house is patient. It always waits. And so do we." Behind her, the figures shifted, their faces pressing closer to the doorframe. Some smiled. Some wept. All stared. Mara's body sagged. She swayed in the rain, her strength unraveling thread by thread. "Why me?" she cried, her voice breaking. "Why do you want me?" The woman tilted her head. "Because you are not a guest. You are family. You built these walls stone by stone. You dined at this table long before you forgot. And when you tried to leave..." Her smile widened, brittle as cracked porcelain. "We kept your seat warm." Mara shook her head violently, tears mingling with rain. No, I had a life." The house groaned, the sound vibrating through the ground, rattling her bones. The figures at the doorway whispered in unison, "Remember." The storm dimmed, the world narrowing until all she could see was the glowing porch light, all she could hear the chant, "Remember. Remember. Remember." Her vision blurred. Flashes surged through her mind, sitting at the supper table, her hands clasped with theirs, laughter that was her own mingling with theirs, the lavender dress clinging to her body as though it belonged. Her knees buckled. She fell into the mud again, clutching her head, screaming. The porch light flared, and the chant grew deafening, "Remember." And in that blinding light, Mara saw herself, years older, hollow-eyed, wearing the lavender nightdress. Smiling patiently. Waiting. Mara pressed her palms to her temples, nails digging into her scalp as the visions tore through her. Her screams tangled with the storm until she could no longer tell if the thunder outside belonged to the sky or to her own voice. The light from the porch pulsed like a heartbeat, each flare driving the images deeper. She saw herself seated at the long dining table, surrounded by the gaunt, grinning guests. Her chair, the empty chair, was not empty in these memories. It belonged to her. The quilt across her lap was the same one folded on the living room couch. Her reflection in the tall mirror smiled at her knowingly, black eyes gleaming. She saw her hands, thinner, bones pressing beneath skin, the veins dark and blue. Saw herself lifting a silver goblet, its surface tarnished, filled with something thick and black. She drank. She laughed. She belonged. Mara stumbled backward, choking on a sob. No. No, that's not me. That's not me. The figures in the doorway swayed, whispering in unison. It is you. It has always been you. The lavender woman stepped down into the rain, each drop sliding off her as though it dared not touch her. She knelt before Mara, her skeletal hand reaching out. The storm stilled, waiting. Do you see now, child? She rasped, her voice soft, almost kind. You never left. You only dreamed of leaving. And now the dream is ending. Mara's vision blurred again. More fragments came, crashing over her like waves. Her hands stacking bricks, mortar under her fingernails, the walls of the house rising around her. Her voice humming softly as she stitched the rose wallpaper, the pattern repeating endlessly, roses upon roses. Her laughter in the attic as she rocked in the old chair, listening to the thing in the rafters whisper her name. Her stomach lurched. She fell to her knees, gagging, but nothing came up. Her body felt hollow, empty, as though something inside had already been taken long ago. The lavender woman's fingers brushed her cheek, cold and damp like stone. Do not cry, Mara. There is nothing to fear. You built this house to keep us all together. You gave us supper. You gave us light. And when you tried to leave, we kept you safe until you remembered. Mara sobbed, her voice breaking. No, no, I don't want to remember. I don't want this. The woman leaned closer, her black eyes filling Mara's vision. Her whisper slid into her ear, soft as a lullaby. Want does not matter. You are already home. The porch light flared again, flooding the clearing, and when Mara blinked, she was no longer in the mud. She was seated at the supper table. The goblet rested in her hands. Dozens of eyes fixed on her with reverence, their grins wide, their voices humming a low, eager chant. The lavender woman sat at the head of the table, smiling. Welcome back, child. Supper is served. The goblet trembled in Mara's hands, its tarnished silver slick against her skin. The liquid inside rippled, black and thick, carrying the stench of iron and damp earth. The chant of the supper guests vibrated through the long wooden table, through the walls, through her bones. Drink, drink, drink. Her throat tightened. She tried to set the goblet down, but her fingers refused to obey. They clutched tighter, lifting it slowly toward her lips as though guided by someone else's will. No, she whispered, her voice cracking. No, I won't. The lavender woman's smile remained fixed, her black eyes glittering like whetstones. You always say that, she rasped gently. And you always drink. The guests leaned closer, their gaunt bodies swaying, their wide grins splitting further. Their laughter rattled the table, chairs scraping across the floor as they pressed in. Drink, Mara. Drink. Her heart hammered against her ribs. She clenched her teeth, forcing her shaking arms downward. I'm not one of you. I never was. The woman tilted her head, puppet-like, her voice patient, soothing. But you are. You built this table with your own hands. You carved these chairs. You poured the first goblet. She gestured with her skeletal hand. Look! Mara's eyes darted downward. Her name was carved into the wood of the table before her, jagged letters, deep and permanent. The grooves were filled with dried, blackened stains. Her stomach lurched. No, no! The goblet rose again, trembling at her lips. The liquid sloshed, its stench overwhelming. Suddenly, the mirror across the room shattered. Every head at the table snapped toward it in unison. Shards of glass scattered across the floor, faces trapped within them screaming silently. Mara's own reflection appeared in the largest shard, eyes wide, desperate. Don't drink, the reflection mouthed. Fight it. The lavender woman's smile faltered. Her head jerked sharply toward Mara. Do not listen to her. She is what you were before you remembered. She is nothing. The guest chant grew louder, their fists pounding the table in rhythm. Drink. 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 Mara's breath came in gasps, her arms trembling under the pull of invisible hands. The goblet touched her lips, the bitter scent burning her nostrils. Her tears mixed with the rain still clinging to her face. Her reflection slammed both hands against the shard of glass, her mouth forming the same word again and again. Fight. Mara screamed, wrenching the goblet from her lips. She hurled it across the table. The black liquid splattered, steaming where it touched the wood, hissing where it landed on the guests. They shrieked, their laughter twisting into guttural howls. Smoke rose from their flesh, their hollow eyes narrowing in rage. The lavender woman's smile broke, her lips peeling back into a snarl. You will drink, she hissed, her voice booming through the house. If not tonight, then tomorrow. If not tomorrow, then the next. You will not escape what you are. Mara pushed back from the table, her chair toppling. The room shook violently, the chandelier above swaying, shadows writhing across the walls. Her reflection's voice filled her head, louder than the chanting, louder than the house. Run. Mara bolted, sprinting for the door at the far end of the dining hall as the guests lunged from their seats, their skeletal hands clawing for her. The house roared, furious, alive, and Mara ran into its depths once more. Mara slammed through the far door, the wood striking the wall with a thunderous crack. She stumbled into a corridor she had never seen before. The air was colder here, heavy with dust and the sour tang of mildew. Behind her, the dining hall erupted in chaos, chairs overturning, voices shrieking, fists pounding the table. The lavender woman's rasping roar cut through them all. Bring her back! The door shuddered violently as something slammed into it from the other side. Mara lurched forward, sprinting blindly down the corridor. The floorboards groaned under her weight, the walls narrowing as if squeezing her towards some inevitable end. Her lungs burned. Her cuts stung. She had no plan, only motion. Keep moving, keep moving. The corridor twisted sharply, then widened into another room. Mara froze. It was a nursery. The air here was stale, heavy with dust, but toys lay scattered neatly across the floor as if arranged by careful hands. A rocking horse swayed gently in the corner, though no breeze stirred. A crib stood against the far wall, draped in tattered lace, its mattress sagging under the weight of time. Mara's stomach nodded. She whispered to herself, "No, don't stop. Don't stop." But a sound drifted from the crib. A whimper. Her throat closed. She crept closer, against her better judgment, each step weighted with dread. The whimper grew louder, high, fragile, unmistakably that of an infant. Her trembling hands gripped the crib's railing. She forced herself to look inside. There was no child. Only a bundle of cloth, lavender-stained, writhing faintly as though something inside shifted. The whimper grew sharper, cracking into a cry. Mara staggered back, bow rising in her throat. The rocking horse stopped abruptly. Silence swallowed the nursery. Then, another sound. From the walls. From beneath the floor. A faint chorus of children's voices, humming a lullaby, the melody sweet yet unbearably wrong. Mara clamped her hands over her ears. Stop it! Stop it! The cloth bundle inside the crib burst apart. A black, smoke-like figure unfurled upward, tall and skeletal, its hollow face tilting toward her. The infant's cry twisted into a shriek that rattled the windows. Mara bolted for the opposite door, slamming it open, fleeing the nursery's nightmare. She stumbled into yet another hallway, but froze at once. It was the same hallway. Rose wallpaper peeling, doors lining both sides, carpet faded underfoot. Her chest heaved. No, not again. The doors rattled violently, knobs twisting, the voices behind them clamoring, "Stay, Mara. Stay." At the end of the hall, the lavender woman stood waiting, her smile restored, her eyes glimmering like coals in the dark. "You ran so far, child," she rasped, spreading her arms wide. "And yet, here you are." Mara's breath came in ragged gasps, as she stared down the hall. The lavender woman stood poised at the far end, patient and still, her black eyes reflecting what little light flickered through the ceiling cracks. The doors on either side rattled harder, the knobs twisting, wood splintering under the strain. Whispers leaked through the cracks, overlapping in a rising tide. "Stay. Sit. Join us. Don't run." Mara staggered backward, her hands trembling at her sides. "No," she rasped, her voice breaking. "I won't. You can't make me." The lavender woman tilted her head, the movement sharp and unnatural. "We don't make you. You choose us." Again and again and again. Her words were punctuated by a loud bang, a door bursting open on Mara's left. She flinched as a figure lunged out, skeletal hands grasping. Its hollow eyes burned, its jaw unhinging in a silent scream. Mara screamed back, shoving it away, its brittle form cracking but not breaking. She stumbled to the right just as another door swung wide. Another figure emerged, gaunt and grinning, its nails dragging grooves in the carpet as it crawled toward her. Her panic surged. She sprinted down the hall, doors flying open in a storm of noise and shadows. Figures poured out, swaying and grasping, their voices merging into a deafening chant. "Stay! Stay! Stay!" Mara shoved past them, their icy fingers clutching at her jacket, tearing her sleeves. She thrashed and kicked, fighting through the swarm, her eyes locked on the lavender woman waiting at the end. The woman didn't move, didn't waver. Her grin widened, splitting too far, stretching until her cheeks cracked. "Yes," she rasped, her voice carrying over the din. "Come back to me." Mara's chest burned. She felt the pull, the unnatural weight drawing her forward, dragging her through the hall like a tide. Her vision blurred, her knees threatening to buckle. "No," she gasped. "Not again. Not again!" Her reflection's voice roared inside her skull, louder than the chant, urgent and fierce. "Fight." Mara's hands closed around the frame of a door she passed. Without thinking, she wrenched herself sideways, hurling her body into the room. She slammed the door shut, the wood rattling as hands clawed from the other side. The room was dark, the air heavy with dust. She collapsed against the door, sobbing, her heart hammering against her ribs. The chant outside quieted, fading into muffled whispers. Mara dragged herself to her feet, blinking through the dark. This wasn't a bedroom. It was a staircase. Narrow, descending into blackness. And from below came a voice, faint but clear. Not the lavender woman. Not the supper guests. Her own reflection's voice. "Mara. Down here. Hurry." Mara's breath hitched as she stared into the stairwell. The air drifting upward was colder than ice, thick with the smell of wet stone and soil. Her reflection's voice echoed again, steadier this time, urging her downward. "Mara. Trust me. It's the only way out." Her hands shook against the doorframe. It has to be another trick, she thought, her stomach churning. Yet the pounding at the door behind her reminded her that staying wasn't an option. The figures clawed at the wood, their nails screeching, their whispers bleeding through. "Stay. Don't go down. Don't listen. Stay." She swallowed hard, forcing her legs to move. The steps creaked under her weight, narrow and uneven. Each one dipped slightly, as if worn by countless feet before hers. The voices above grew muffled, then faded altogether. The further she descended, the more the darkness pressed in, swallowing her. She trailed her hand along the damp wall, her skin brushing against deep gouges carved into the stone. She paused, tracing one with her fingertips. Letters. Words. "Help US." Her throat tightened. She forced herself onward, her feet moving faster. At the bottom, the stairwell opened into a chamber. Candles lined the walls, their flames guttering though no draft stirred. At the center stood a mirror taller than any she had seen before, its surface rippling like water instead of glass. Her reflection waited inside it. This version of herself was wild-eyed, frantic, but alive, not hollow, not smiling. She pressed her palms against the inside of the glass, her lips forming words Mara could finally hear. This is the way out. You have to step through. Mara's knees shook. How do I know you're not lying? Her reflection's eyes brimmed with tears. Because I'm what's left of you, the part that's been fighting all this time. The part they couldn't drown. If you stay, you'll be hers forever. But if you come with me. She pressed harder against the glass, the surface rippling around her hands. Thought we might finally be free. Mara's chest heaved. She stepped closer, reaching out. The mirror shimmered beneath her fingertips, warm and alive, like skin. Then another voice slithered through the chamber. The lavender woman's. You think freedom lies in the glass? Foolish child. Her rasping laugh echoed from the shadows. That is not your reflection. That is the hunger of the house itself, dressed in your face. Step through, and you will feed it forever. Mara spun. The lavender woman emerged from the dark, her dress dragging across the stone, her smile wide, her black eyes glittering in the candlelight. Stay with me, Mara. Sit at the table. Drink from your goblet. Be who you are meant to be. Her reflection pounded the glass, desperate. Don't listen. Step through. Now. Mara's heart raced, her body trembling between them, the reflection pleading, the lavender woman commanding. Her choice hovered before her like a blade. Mara's chest heaved, torn between the two voices. Her reflection beat against the glass, face wild with urgency. Step through, Mara! Hurry! Behind her, the lavender woman's calm rasp filled the chamber. She is not you. She never was. Do you not feel the pull in your bones? You belong to me. To the house. To supper. Mara's hands trembled. She pressed one palm flat against the mirror. Its surface rippled outward in soft waves, warm and inviting, pulling her closer like a heartbeat against her skin. Her reflection's tears streaked down her face. Please! If you stay, you'll forget again. You'll sit at that table forever. This is your only chance. The lavender woman's skeletal hand curled over Mara's shoulder, her touch icy enough to burn. And if you step through, child, you will vanish into nothing. You will not be saved. You will be swallowed. Mara flinched at the cold, but she didn't pull away. Her eyes darted between the two versions of herself, the pleading reflection and the smiling black-eyed shade looming at her back. Her voice broke into a whisper. I just want to go home. The lavender woman leaned close, her breath damp against Mara's ear. You are home. Her reflection shook her head violently, pounding her fists against the glass. No! Don't listen! You've been tricked before. Don't let it happen again. The chamber shuddered. Candles flickered violently, their flames bending toward the mirror. Shadows writhed along the walls, forming faces that laughed and wept and screamed all at once. The lavender woman's grip tightened. Choose, child. Choose quickly. The house grows hungry. Mara's pulse thundered. Her stomach twisted, bile rising in her throat. She closed her eyes, breath ragged. And then she moved. With a cry that ripped her throat raw, she threw herself forward. Her body plunged into the mirror. The surface folded around her like water, engulfing her in blinding white. The sound of the lavender woman's scream echoed behind her, furious and sharp, cut off as the glass swallowed her whole. She tumbled through nothingness, spinning, falling, sinking. Voices screamed past her ears, hundreds, thousands, all shrieking her name. Mara! 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 Her lungs burned, her limbs flailed, but she couldn't stop the plunge. And then, silence. She gasped and opened her eyes. She was lying on damp grass, her body shivering under the cool night air. The storm was gone. The forest was gone. Above her stretched a starless sky. She sat up slowly, and froze. The house stood before her, but this time, it was wrong. Its windows were shattered, its roof caved in, its walls blackened with age. The porch light was dark, the door sagging open into emptiness. It was not waiting. It was ruined. Her reflection's voice whispered faintly in her mind, weaker now, but still present. You've seen the truth, Mara. The house died long ago. It only lives because you let it. End it. Mara pushed herself shakily to her feet, her breath fogging in the cold night air. The ruin of the house loomed before her like a corpse. Roof caved, porch half collapsed, windows shattered. Ivy crawled across the blackened walls, strangling what little structure remained. Her knees trembled as she stepped closer. Gravel crunched underfoot, weeds sprouted through cracks, and the air smelled of damp ash and rot. It felt empty. Her reflection's voice whispered faintly in her skull. "This is what it really is. Not what it showed you." Mara gripped her torn jacket tighter around her shoulders, shivering. "Then why did I keep seeing it alive? Why did it pull me back?" The voice wavered. "Because you gave it power. Fear gave it walls. Memory gave it doors. Every step, every refusal, every scream, you built it again and again." Her stomach twisted. She whispered to herself, "I kept it alive." The porch groaned as she climbed the sagging steps. The boards were brittle now, splintering beneath her weight. Where once the warm glow of the light had burned, there was only a rusted socket, long cold. The door sagged open, hinges whining faintly. Mara stepped inside. Dust and decay swallowed her senses. The living room was nothing but collapsed beams and rubble. The couch she had sat on was reduced to splinters. Lace doilies rotted to threads. The crooked mirror lay shattered across the floor, its frame warped and broken. Her breath came shallow. It was never real. From deeper in the ruin came faint sounds. Not chains. Not laughter. Just echoes, memories clinging to the bones of the house. Whispers of the supper chant. The lullaby from the nursery. The rasp of the lavender woman calling her name. Her hands shook. She pressed them over her ears. "No more. No more!" The reflection's voice rose again, firmer this time. "Then end it. Break what remains. Tear out its heart." Mara stumbled further inside. Her boots crunched glass, her hands brushing against crumbling walls. She passed where the dining hall should have been, only collapsed beams and a long table splintered into dust. The stench of rot lingered, but the guests were gone. At the back of the ruin, she found it. The cellar door, half rotted, hanging from rusted hinges. The same one she had descended before, when the chain-draped figure circled her. Her pulse hammered. She whispered, "The heart's down there, isn't it?" Her reflection's voice murmured faintly, "Yes. Finish it." The air thickened as she stepped toward it. She gripped the rusted handle, pulling. The door groaned, wood crumbling beneath her hands. A draft rose from below, cold, damp, carrying the scent of iron and decay, and beneath it all, a heartbeat. Slow, heavy, patient. The house still lived. Mara gritted her teeth, her body trembling. "Then I'll kill it." She stepped onto the stairs. The stairs groaned under Mara's weight, each step shedding splinters and flakes of rot. Her hands slid along the damp wall for balance, fingers brushing over moss and gouges carved by something long gone. The deeper she went, the louder the heartbeat became. Tum, tum, tum. It rattled her bones, slow and deliberate, as though the house itself breathed through her ribs. Her reflection's voice whispered inside her skull, urgent but thin, like it was weakening. "Keep going. Don't stop, no matter what it shows you." The air thickened the further she descended. The smell of iron grew sharper, choking her throat with each breath. Shadows clung to the edges of her vision, darting when she tried to look directly at them. At the bottom, the stairs gave way to stone. The cellar stretched out before her, though in ruin it looked different. No candles, no flickering mirrors, no supper table. Only damp walls weeping with water, a floor slick with mud, and roots clawing down from the ceiling. At the center, pulsing faintly in the dark, lay a shape. Mara staggered closer, every nerve screaming to stop. The heartbeat thundered now, rattling the ground, echoing in her skull. It was a heart. Not human. Too large, too twisted. Its surface was gray and swollen, covered in veins that glowed faintly like embers. Each beat sent ripples through the air, the walls groaning in rhythm. Mara's stomach twisted. She whispered, "That's it, isn't it? Her reflection's voice answered, faint but sure. Yes. Destroy it. Now. Her hands tightened on the broken branch she still clutched, its splintered edge sharp enough to pierce. Her chest heaved as she raised it high. The heart pulsed harder, faster, as though sensing her intent. Tum 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 tum. The walls shuddered. From the shadows, shapes emerged, gaunt, hollow-eyed figures crawling across the stone, their mouths stretched wide in silent screams. Dozens, hundreds, dragging themselves toward her. Mara screamed and drove the branch downward. The wood pierced flesh with a sickening crunch. The heart convulsed, spraying thick, black ichor across the floor. The figures shrieked as one, their mouths finally giving voice to their endless wails. The walls split. The ceiling cracked. The house roared in fury, its voice shaking the earth. The lavender woman's scream pierced through the chaos, sharper than all the rest. No! You are mine! The heart writhed, pulsing faster, black blood gushing. Mara tore the branch free and plunged it down again, screaming with every strike. The figures collapsed into smoke. The heartbeat faltered, and then, silence. Mara staggered back, her chest heaving. The heart lay still, ruptured, deflating into nothing. The cellar walls groaned one final time, and began to collapse. The cellar shuddered violently, dust raining from the ceiling. Beams groaned and snapped above, crashing into the stone with deafening cracks. Mara flinched as splinters showered around her, the air filling with choking grit. She bolted for the stairs. The first step splintered under her weight, nearly throwing her onto the jagged floor. She caught herself against the wall, her shoulder slamming hard, but pushed upward with every ounce of strength left in her. Behind her, the ruined heart gave a final spasm. Black ichor sprayed across the stones, sizzling like acid where it landed. The smell of rot and iron grew suffocating, burning her throat, her lungs. Get out! She screamed inside her head. Get out, get out, get out! The walls buckled inward. Roots snapped from the ceiling, swinging down like whips, slamming across her path. She ducked beneath one, clambering up another few steps before the next root struck, gouging the stone beside her. Her reflection's voice cut through the chaos, faint but steady. Don't stop, Mara. If you stop, you'll never leave. She pushed harder, lungs tearing with every gasp. Her legs trembled, her arms burned, but she forced herself up, step by splintered step. Halfway to the top, a shadow loomed across the stairwell. The lavender woman. Her dress was torn, her hair wild, her black eyes blazing with fury. Her grin was gone, her lips pulled back in a snarl. You cannot kill what you are, she roared, her voice shaking the cellar. Mara screamed back, I'm not you, and shoved upward, ramming her shoulder into the woman's brittle frame. The lavender woman shrieked, stumbling backward into the collapsing cellar. Her form cracked like porcelain, splintering apart as she reached for Mara with clawed hands. I will always wait for you, she shrieked, her voice splitting into 100 echoes. The stairs shuddered violently, but Mara didn't look back. She surged upward, her hands clawing at the last few steps. The door above loomed, barely hanging to its hinges. She hurled herself through just as the stairwell gave way. The door slammed shut behind her, and then, silence. Mara lay on her stomach, coughing dust, her lungs burning. She rolled onto her back, her body trembling. The house was gone. Around her stretched an empty field. No forest. No storm. Just black soil under a starless sky, flat and endless in every direction. Her breath caught. She sat up slowly, her heart hammering. The house was gone. But she was not free. From the horizon came a sound, low, steady, impossible to mistake. Tum, tum, tum. The heartbeat. Her reflection's voice whispered faintly, fading now like smoke. It isn't over, Mara. Not yet. Mara rose unsteadily to her feet, her legs trembling, the dust of the ruins still clinging to her skin. The field stretched on forever, flat black soil, cracked and lifeless under a sky that had no stars, no moon, no dawn. Just emptiness. But the heartbeat was here. Louder than before. Tum, tum, tum. It rolled across the barren expanse, vibrating in her chest. Each beat seemed to pull her forward, like invisible strings hooked through her ribs. She turned in a slow circle. There was nothing, no trees, no house, no path. Just the endless dark earth. Yet when she faced north, the pull grew stronger. The heartbeat quickened. Her reflection's voice whispered weakly inside her mind. You have to follow it. You have to end it. At the root. Her throat tightened. I thought I did. The voice trembled, fading. Not the heart you saw. That was only its body. The root runs deeper. Follow it. Before it follows you. Mara clutched her arms around herself, shivering though no wind stirred. She walked. The soil crumbled beneath her boots, soft as ash. Each step echoed faintly, though the field was empty. The further she went, the faster the heartbeat grew, until it thundered through her ears. Ahead, the ground began to bulge. A mound rose from the flat earth, enormous, swelling higher than a house, its surface split with glowing red cracks that pulsed with the beat. Mara froze. No, it was a root, not wood, but flesh and stone tangled together, twisting upward out of the earth. Veins of fire glowed within it, each pulse rattling the ground. The mound split. A fissure tore open at its peak, spilling black smoke into the sky. From within came voices, screaming, chanting, laughing, crying, thousands at once, a cacophony that clawed at Mara's mind. Her hands pressed to her ears. Stop! Stop it! The voices merged into one, the lavender woman's rasp, stretched and deep, booming across the field. You cannot sever the root, Mara. You are part of it. You are the seed. Mara stumbled back, her knees buckling. No! I'm not. I won't be. The fissure widened, the mound splitting open like a rotten wound. From the gap, something began to rise. A figure. Colossal. It was shaped like her. A giant reflection of Mara, its eyes hollow, its mouth stretched in a black grin. Chains coiled its arms, dragging behind it, each link sparking as it struck the soil. Her reflection's voice shrieked in her head, Run, Mara! Don't let it touch you! The giant's hollow grin widened, its booming voice rattling the field, home. And it stepped toward her. Mara rolled, the impact shattering the ground where she had stood. She scrambled to her feet, gripping the shard tight, and screamed as she charged. The giant bent low, its hollow face leering. Its grin widened, rows of black teeth unfolding like a maw. Mara raised the shard high and drove it forward, straight into the creature's chest. The giant convulsed, a guttural roar exploding from its hollow throat. The chains whipped wildly, slashing furrows into the soil. Black smoke poured from the wound, billowing into the sky. Mara held on, pushing deeper, screaming through clenched teeth. You're not me! I'm not yours! The figure's form flickered, cracking like glass. Its grin faltered. The chains dissolved into smoke, the body collapsing inward, shrinking, unraveling, and then silence. The shards slipped from Mara's hands. She fell to her knees, gasping, her body trembling violently. The field was still. The fissure had closed. The mound was gone, but the sky above remained starless. Empty. Watching. Her reflection's voice whispered, fainter than ever, You struck the shadow. But the root still lives. Deeper. Always deeper. Mara sobbed, clutching her head. How much more? How much deeper can it go? The voice did not answer. The colossal figure towered over the mound, its chains dragging deep gouges through the soil. Each step it took shook the ground, sending shockwaves that rattled Mara's bones. Its hollow eyes locked onto her, unblinking, a dark parody of her own face. Mara stumbled back, her boots slipping in the ash-like dirt. No, this isn't me. You're not me! The reflection's grin split wider, its voice booming across the barren field, layered in 1,000 tones. I am all the parts you left behind. Every fear. Every memory. Every time you stayed. I am the Mara that never ran. Its chains lashed forward, crashing into the ground inches from her feet, showering her with sparks. Mara screamed and bolted, sprinting across the endless soil. Her legs burned, her chest heaved. but adrenaline shoved her forward. The giant followed, each step impossibly long, closing the distance with ease. The ground cracked beneath its weight, glowing fissures spreading outward like veins of fire. Her reflection's faint voice hissed inside her skull, urgent, desperate. You can't outrun it. You have to face it. Mara gasped between ragged breaths. I can't. Look at it. It'll kill me. The voice steadied, though weak. If you don't fight, it will become you. That's worse. Her heart pounded with panic, but her feet slowed. She turned sharply, skidding in the dirt. The giant loomed above, raising one chained arm. The lynx screeched as it lifted, ready to bring them down with crushing force. Mara's eyes darted across the barren field, searching for anything at all. Her gaze caught on a jagged shape protruding from the soil, a shard of black stone, half buried, pulsing faintly with the same rhythm as the root. Her instincts screamed. That's it. She lunged for it, ripping the shard free. It was heavy, sharp-edged, humming with terrible energy. The heartbeat thundered through her hands, up her arms, rattling her teeth. The giant's chains came down. Mara knelt in the dirt, her body trembling, the shard still humming faintly at her side. The sky above stretched on forever, starless and empty, but the silence unsettled her more than the heartbeat had. It wasn't peace, it was a pause. Her reflection's voice returned, thin and quivering. It isn't gone. It hides deeper, always deeper. You have to dig. Mara's stomach turned. She whispered, hoarse, dig? Into what? There's nothing here. The ground trembled beneath her knees. Small cracks split open, glowing faintly red, spreading outward like veins. From them came faint whispers, dozens, hundreds, all chanting her name. Mara. 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 She staggered to her feet, backing away as the soil crumbled. But the cracks followed her, circling, pulling her back to the center. The shard pulsed in her hand, hot now, almost alive. The voice inside her head firmed, despite its weakness. Strike the ground. Pierce the cracks. Only then will you reach the root. Mara raised the shard, her grip slick with sweat. And if I do? What happens to me? Silence. She let out a ragged sob. Of course. No answer. The cracks widened, glowing brighter, heat searing her skin. Whispers rose into screams, hands clawing up from the fissures, pale, skeletal, their nails tearing through soil, reaching for her legs. Mara screamed and drove the shard into the ground. The earth split. The field shattered like glass. The soil falling away beneath her in massive sheets. She plunged downward, wind whipping her face, the whispers shrieking in her ears. The shard burned in her hands as though fusing to her skin. When she hit bottom, it wasn't soil that caught her. It was wood. She staggered upright, dazed. Her eyes widened. She was standing in a hallway. Rose-patterned wallpaper peeled from the walls. Doors lined both sides, their knobs gleaming faintly in the dark. No, Mara whispered, shaking her head. Not again. Not here. But it wasn't the same hallway. The floorboards were alive, throbbing faintly beneath her boots, veins glowing red through the cracks. The air pulsed with the same heartbeat that had followed her across the field. At the far end of the hall, a single door stood open. Light spilled from it, warm and golden, flickering like fire. Her stomach twisted. Supper, she whispered. Her reflection's voice rasped inside her skull, so faint it was nearly gone, no deeper than supper. This is where it began. Mara's hand tightened around the shard. Her knees shook as she stepped forward, each footfall echoing like a drum. The doors rattled on either side, whispers bleeding through, but she kept her eyes locked on the glow ahead. The open door waited, and beyond it, something shifted, something vast, something breathing. Mara's boots creaked against the living floorboards as she neared the glowing door. The walls pulsed faintly with each heartbeat, the rose wallpaper fluttering as though it were skin stretched too thin over something alive. The whispers from the doors she passed clawed at her ears, pleading, mocking, begging, "Stay, Mara. Sit with us. Drink. Remember." She kept her eyes fixed forward, the shard clutched so tight in her hand that its jagged edges cut into her palm. The glow ahead swelled, golden and warm, almost inviting. The door yawned wide. She stepped through. The chamber beyond was vast, circular, its ceiling lost in shadow. The walls glistened, slick with moisture. Roots tangled in thick knots that pulsed with light. At the center, rising from the floor, stood a grotesque throne made of wood, stone, and bone woven together, and seated upon it was herself, an older Mara. Her hair long and matted, her skin pale and hollow, her eyes black, her grin wide and brittle. She wore the lavender nightdress, its lace frayed but regal, flowing down the throne like a queen's robe. Mara froze. Her breath caught in her throat. No, the figure on the throne tilted her head, smile stretching further. When she spoke, her voice was the house itself, deep, rasping, resonant, echoing through the chamber. You came home at last. Mara staggered back, her stomach lurching. You're not me. You can't be. The queen on the throne rose slowly, impossibly tall, her limbs bending at wrong angles, her shadow spilling across the chamber like tar. I am the you who stayed, the you who remembered, the you who chose. Mara's chest heaved. I didn't choose this. I fought you. I killed the heart. The queen's black eyes narrowed. You struck at the body, not the root. And here it waits. Here I wait. Always. The walls groaned. Roots tore through the floor, writhing like serpents. They coiled toward Mara's ankles, wrapping, pulling. She screamed, hacking at them with the shard. The roots recoiled, shrieking as black ichor sprayed, but more surged forward. The queen tilted her head, calm once more. You cannot cut me away. Every strike feeds me. Every scream binds you tighter. Her reflection's voice shrieked in Mara's mind, weak but desperate. Don't listen. Strike her. She is the core. Mara raised the shard, tears streaking her face. Then I'll end it. I'll end you. The queen spread her arms wide, her grin stretching into a jagged maw. Try, little seed. Try. Mara charged. The chamber thundered with the sound of the heartbeat. Tum. 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 And the two Maras collided. The shard in Mara's hands glowed hot as she swung it, slashing at the queen's towering form. Sparks of black light erupted where stone met flesh, each strike tearing shallow wounds across the lavender nightdress. The queen didn't stagger. She didn't bleed. She only laughed. You fight yourself, child. Every cut you make only deepens you. Mara screamed, swinging again, hacking at the roots that lashed up from the floor. They wrapped around her wrists, her ankles dragging her down. She slashed wildly, ichor spraying across her arms and face. The stink of iron and rot burned her throat. Her reflection's voice roared in her mind, Don't stop. Strike her heart, not the roots. Mara's eyes snapped upward. The queen's chest pulsed faintly beneath the torn fabric, light flickering inside her ribs. Like the heart in the cellar, but smaller, stronger, buried deeper. The queen's grin widened, her jaw cracking at the corners. She spread her arms, and the throne behind her split apart into writhing tendrils, a dozen skeletal hands stretching from it to seize Mara. She darted forward, rolling beneath one lashing root, leaping to her feet in a spray of dirt. The shard hummed in her grip, as though urging her onward. The queen's voice shook the chamber. You cannot kill what you are. You cannot kill home. Her claws lashed outward. One struck Mara across the shoulder, throwing her into the wall. Pain seared white-hot, blood soaking her sleeve. She coughed, gasping, her vision swimming, but her hand never let go of the shard. She forced herself upright, teeth clenched. You're not my home. With a scream, she charged again. The queen's shadow loomed, massive hands descending, but Mara ducked beneath them, thrusting the shard upward with all her strength. It pierced the queen's chest. For the first time, the queen staggered. Her laughter broke into a guttural snarl. Black light exploded from the wound, roots thrashing violently, the walls of the chamber splitting wide. Mara screamed, pushing the shard deeper, black ichor soaking her hands. I'm not you! The queen shrieked, her voice splitting into countless echoes, each one a different version of Mara, laughing, crying, begging, screaming. I am every time you came back. The shard sank further. The pulsing light flickered wildly, the heartbeat deafening, shaking the chamber as though the world itself would collapse. The queen's eyes locked onto Mara's, black burning into blue. For one instant, her grin faltered. Her voice softened. You'll never know who you are without me. The shard plunged all the way through. The queen convulsed. Her form shattered like glass, fragments of light exploding into the chamber, scattering like dying stars. The roots writhed once more, then crumbled to ash. The throne collapsed. The walls fell silent. The heartbeat stopped. Mara fell to her knees, gasping, her body shaking violently. The shard lay in her lap, dark now, no longer humming. For the first time, the chamber was silent. Her reflection's voice whispered weakly, barely more than a breath, "It's over. You killed the root." But Mara lifted her head, trembling, eyes wide. The chamber walls were gone, and she was sitting on the couch again. Mara's breath hitched as her eyes darted around the room. The couch cradled her body, its lace doilies neat and white, its quilt folded precisely across the backrest. The wallpaper curled in soft strips, the smell of lavender thick in the air. Her hands clutched the shard. It was still with her, heavy, cold, its jagged edge slick with black ichor. Her heart thundered. "No," she whispered. "No, not again. I killed it. I killed it." The mirror on the wall gleamed, whole once more. Her reflection stared back at her, but this time it smiled. "Patient. Calm. You've always said that," it murmured, though its lips didn't move. "And yet here you are." Mara's stomach lurched. She leapt to her feet, stumbling toward the door. Her boots thudded against the boards, quiet boards, boards that didn't groan like they had in the ruin. The knob was cold in her hand, slick with condensation. She yanked it open. The porch light glowed, warm, inviting. Rain fell in steady sheets beyond, striking gravel. And her car sat in the drive, headlights dim, waiting. Mara's chest heaved. She staggered back. "No. No, 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 no," the house groaned, the sound vibrating through the walls, rattling the frames. From upstairs, footsteps echoed, slow, deliberate, moving toward the stairs. Her reflection's voice shrieked in her skull, "Run! Don't sit! Don't stay!" But the lavender woman's rasp drifted from the hallway. Calm, assured. "Why fight it, child? Every road leads here. Every door is mine. Sit, and the struggle ends." The shard pulsed faintly in Mara's grip, her vision blurred with tears. "Please, please, just let me go." The couch behind her shifted, springs groaning as though something unseen had sat down. The quilt unfurled onto the cushion. Her reflection in the mirror rose, wearing the lavender nightdress, her black eyes gleaming. She beckoned with a skeletal hand. "Come home." Mara screamed, raising the shard high. "I'll tear you down again." The lights flickered. The porch light flared, and the house laughed. Not the lavender woman. Not the guests. Not the reflections. The house. Boards groaned, pipes shrieked, windows rattled. Its voice was everything at once, walls, beams, roof, floor, rising into a deafening roar. "You built me. You will never leave." The shard seared hot in Mara's hands. She staggered, the ichor on its edge hissing into smoke, and then the couch cushions clenched, pulling at her legs like jaws. The cushions tightened around Mara's legs, springs groaning like bones snapping under pressure. She screamed and slashed at the fabric with the shard. Stuffing burst out in a spray, but the couch held on, its grip stronger, its voice vibrating through her bones. "You rest here, child. You always rest here." The boards beneath her feet pulsed like veins, glowing faintly red. Roots writhed up from the cracks, curling around her ankles, climbing her calves. "Cold, damp, alive?" Mara thrashed, stabbing downward. The shard tore through one root, then another, spraying black ichor across the floor. The house roared in pain, the walls trembling, picture frames crashing to the ground. Her reflection in the mirror laughed, a hollow, black-eyed grin. "Fight harder! Every cut only makes you mine." Mara's chest heaved, tears streaking her mud-stained face. No! I'm not yours! The lavender woman appeared at the foot of the stairs, her nightdress flowing in a phantom breeze. Calm, patient, smiling. But you are, Mara. You built me with your hands stone by stone. You fed me with your fears. Every time you tried to run, you watered my roots with your despair. You cannot unmake me. The shard pulsed hotter, branding her palm, its jagged edges glowing faintly white. Her reflection's grin faltered, lips twisting into a sneer. Her reflection hissed. Don't you dare! Mara's body shook violently. She raised the shard high, the heat searing her flesh. The house howled, the lavender woman shrieking, the walls splitting with fresh cracks. Her reflection pressed its palms against the glass, its black eyes wide. If you strike the house, you strike yourself. You'll end with it. Mara's throat tore with her scream. Then I end it. She drove the shard into the floor. The wood split like bone. Light burst upward, blinding, pouring into every crack, every seam. The roots recoiled, writhing, black ichor spraying across the walls. The house roared, its voice fractured, collapsing in on itself. The lavender woman's smile shattered into rage as her body cracked apart, fragments of porcelain scattering. The mirror splintered, her reflection's face twisting into terror before shattering into dust. Mara clung to the shard, forcing it deeper into the floor. Her body seared, her vision blurring white. The heartbeat stopped. Silence. She collapsed forward, her hands on the splintered boards, her chest heaving. The couch lay still. The roots withered into ash. The walls sagged inward, broken, lifeless. And the shard crumbled in her palm, falling into dust. Mara's lips trembled. Is it over? The house gave no answer. Outside, the storm was gone. But when Mara lifted her eyes, she was no longer in the house. She was standing in the middle of a barren field, the ruins of the house scattered around her like bones. And on the horizon, in the distance, another porch light flickered on. Mara staggered to her feet, her muscles screaming, her palms raw where the shard's dust had burned her skin. The barren field stretched in every direction, broken beams and splintered walls scattered like the ribs of some ancient beast. The house was gone, or what was left of it had finally collapsed into silence. But then she saw it. On the horizon, faint but steady, another porch light flickered to life. Her knees buckled. No, no, it can't. The light glowed brighter, cutting through the starless dark. A shape began to form around it. Walls, a roofline, windows. Another house. Whole. Waiting. Her stomach twisted, bow rising in her throat. I killed you, she whispered, voice breaking. I killed you! From the ruins around her came faint laughter, dry, brittle, overlapping, as though the rubble itself remembered how to mock. Her reflection's voice whispered faintly in her mind, weaker than ever. One house dies. Another takes root. It feeds on you. On all of us. Mara clutched her head, tears streaming down her face. Then what's the point? What's the point of fighting if it never ends? The reflection's tone was almost tender. The point is to fight anyway. To deny it as long as you can. To burn as many roots as possible before it swallows you. Her chest heaved, ragged sobs ripping through her. She turned in a circle, scanning the horizon. Her breath caught. It wasn't just one porch light. All around her, scattered across the endless field, dozens, hundreds of lights blinked on. Small at first, but growing brighter, revealing silhouettes of houses sprouting from the black soil like weeds. Every one of them the same. Every one of them hers. Her knees gave out, and she collapsed into the dirt. No, 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 no! The nearest house groaned, its front door creaking open. Warm light spilled from within, golden and patient. And a voice drifted across the barren field, layered and endless, echoing from every glowing doorway. Come home, Mara! Supper is waiting. Mara crouched in the dirt, her chest heaving, eyes wide as the lights spread across the horizon. Dozens of houses. Hundreds. Each porch lamp flickered in unison, glowing brighter, stronger, until the barren field looked like a constellation inverted, stars buried in the earth instead of the sky. Every door opened at once. Golden lights spilled out. Silhouettes filled the thresholds. Women in lavender nightdresses, men with hollow eyes, children clutching broken toys. All waiting. All watching. Her stomach twisted. No. I can't. I won't. The chorus of voices rolled across the field like thunder. Mara. Come home. Sit. Drink. Remember. The weight of it pressed her down, her bones aching, her body trembling under the pull. Her muscles screamed to stand, to walk, to obey. Her reflection's voice rasped faintly inside her mind, weaker than ever but still there. Don't give in. If you step through one, you'll never leave again. Mara clutched her temples, tears spilling down her face. I don't know how much longer I can fight. The nearest house groaned. Its porch light flared brighter than the rest, its doorway yawning wider. A figure stepped out. It was herself. This Mara was calm, smiling, her nightdress pristine, her black eyes gleaming. She descended the steps gracefully, her voice carrying on the still air. Enough running. Enough fear. Don't you see how tired you are? Come back. Rest. Mara staggered to her feet, fists clenched, fury breaking through her terror. I'll never be you. Never! Her double tilted her head, her grin stretching wider. You already are. Every time you say never, you build another house. The horizon shuddered. More lights blinked into being, stretching farther and farther until Mara could no longer see the end of them. The field vibrated with the chant. Stay. Sit. Drink. Remember. Mara's body shook violently, but she screamed into the endless dark, her voice raw and defiant. I won't! The chant faltered, the voices overlapping, stuttering. The double smile cracked, just slightly. Her reflection's voice surged in her skull, faint but urgent. Yes. Keep fighting. They can't swallow what refuses to feed them. Mara raised her trembling hands to the sky, her scream echoing across the barren field. I am not yours. The porch lights flickered. One by one, the doors began to shut. Not all, never all, but some. A fraction. Enough to make the endless horizon stutter. Her double hissed, black eyes blazing. This defiance won't last. Mara stood shaking, broken, but still upright. Then I'll defy you 1,000 times more. The horizon pulsed like a living thing, each porch light flickering in uneven rhythm. Some dimmed, their doors closing with soft thuds that echoed like distant tombs. But most stayed bright. Dozens. Hundreds. Still watching. Still waiting. Mara's scream died in her throat, leaving her chest heaving, her throat raw. For the briefest moment, she thought she felt lighter, freer. Then the chant began again. Not from the houses. From the ground. The soil beneath her feet vibrated with whispers. Countless voices rose from the black earth, the field itself alive and speaking. They weren't pleading now. They weren't coaxing. They were furious. Sit. 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 The ground split open. Hands erupted from the cracks, pale, skeletal, hundreds of them, clawing upward. They seized her ankles, her calves, dragging her down into the soil. The dirt swallowed her boots, sucking her lower with every heartbeat. Mara shrieked, slashing at the hands with her bare nails, kicking, thrashing. No! Let me go! Her reflection's voice cried out in her head, panicked. Don't give in! Fight them! Fight them with everything you have left! Mara clawed at the earth, ripping chunks of soil away, her fingers bleeding. More hands burst through, grasping her wrists, her shoulders, her hair, pulling her deeper. She screamed so hard her voice cracked. I said I won't! The soil quaked. A shockwave rippled outward from her chest, sending a surge of heat through her veins. For one impossible second, the hands recoiled, writhing back into the cracks. She wrenched herself free, stumbling onto her knees, gasping, covered in mud and blood. Her body shook violently, but she had broken their grip. The nearest house shuddered. Its porch light flickered, guttering like a dying flame. Its doorway collapsed inward, the figure in the nightdress vanishing into shadow. Mara's eyes widened. She had weakened it. Her reflection's voice surged again, fierce despite its fading strength. Yes. That's it. Your defiance starves them. Scream it again. Burn them all. Mara staggered to her feet, her legs trembling, her fists clenched. She threw back her head and screamed into the black sky, her voice ragged but burning. I am not yours. Across the horizon, a dozen porch lights winked out. Their doors slammed shut with thunderous force, echoes rolling across the barren field. The chant faltered. The houses groaned. Mara's chest heaved, her throat raw, but her eyes blazed with defiance. Do you hear me? You'll never own me again. The horizon shook. Half the houses remained, their lights burning brighter, furious, their doors yawning wider. The lavender woman's voice boomed from every threshold at once, rasping and endless. You can close 1,000 doors, Mara. But there will always be one left open. And every house that still burned whispered together, one command: come home. The horizon blazed with furious light. Half the houses had gone dark, their doors sealed, but the rest burned brighter, porch lamps searing like watchful eyes. Their doors gaped wide, shadows spilling into the barren field like rivers of smoke. Mara's chest heaved, her throat raw from screaming, but her fists clenched tight. I'll close you all, she rasped, voice shredded but steady. Every last one. The houses groaned in unison, their timbers bending, their windows shattering. The sound was like 1,000 trees splitting, like bones breaking. The chorus of voices rose, layered and furious. You will not starve us. You cannot deny what you built. The ground trembled violently. Fissures split the soil, glowing red, spreading like veins across the endless field. And then something vast began to rise. Not another house. All of them. The remaining houses groaned, pulling upward, their roots of stone and wood tearing free from the soil. They twisted together, their walls melding, their roofs splitting, their doors stretching into mouths. One by one, they merged, writhing into a single, impossible shape. Mara fell to her knees, her breath catching. No, oh God, no. A towering structure loomed above her now, stitched from hundreds of houses, its walls bent at angles that defied sense, windows blinking like eyes, doors gaping like jaws. Its roof lines spiraled upward into the starless sky, endless and wrong. The field had built its king. The chorus boomed from its countless mouths, a voice that shook the earth itself. Come home, Mara! The air grew heavy, pressing down on her shoulders until she thought her bones might snap. Her legs trembled, threatening to buckle. Her reflection's voice surged inside her head, hoarse but burning with urgency. Don't kneel. Don't bow. If you kneel, it wins. Mara forced herself upright, her whole body shaking under the weight of its gaze. She screamed into the dark, every shred of her will pouring into the sound. I am not yours. For a heartbeat, the structure faltered. Some of its windows shattered, black smoke pouring out. But it did not fall. Its countless mouths roared in fury, a sound like mountains splitting. Roots erupted from the soil, whipping toward her like spears, aiming to pin her to the ground. Mara stumbled, gasping, her body broken, her voice shredded. She had nothing left but defiance. Her reflection whispered one last time, soft but resolute, then die standing. The roots lashed upward from the soil, thick as serpents, jagged with splinters of bone and stone. They whipped toward Mara, their speed impossible, the sound of their tearing through the air a scream in itself. Her body shook, her lungs burned, her throat was raw, but she stood. She planted her boots in the dirt, her arms wide, her gaze locked on the abomination stitched from houses. Its countless windows blinked, its doors gaped wider, its chorus of voices booming across the barren field. Kneel! Come home! Mara screamed back, voice shredded but burning with defiance. I am not yours! The nearest root coiled around her waist, wrenching her from the ground. Pain seared through her ribs as it tightened. She gasped, blood filling her mouth, but she didn't cry out. She clawed at the root with her bare hands, nails tearing, refusing to submit. Another root snared her leg, another her arm. She was hoisted into the air, suspended before the abomination's shifting, endless form. Its mouths opened wide, hundreds of them, the chorus shrieking her name. Mara! 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 Her reflection's voice rose inside her mind one final time, not weak now, but steady, strong, blazing. Burn, Mara! Burn with your NL! Mara threw her head back and screamed with everything she had left, her voice a raw, terrible sound that tore through the black sky. I will never be yours! Light burst from her chest. Blinding, searing, it ripped through the roots that bound her, burning them to ash. It spread outward in waves, slamming into the abomination's walls. Windows shattered, roofs split, doors collapsed inward. The structure howled, its chorus breaking into shrieks of pain. Smoke poured from its wounds, black ichor gushing like rivers, flooding the barren soil. The houses that made it cracked apart, splintering back into fragments. Mara fell. She hit the ground hard, her vision fading, her breath ragged. The field shook violently, the abomination collapsing into ruin. One by one, the porch lights across the horizon winked out. Darkness swallowed everything. Silence. Mara lay still, her body broken, her lungs barely drawing air. Her reflection's voice whispered in her mind one last time, soft as a lullaby. You didn't kneel. You didn't sit. You didn't drink. That is enough. Mara's lips trembled into the faintest smile. Then everything went black. The blackness was absolute. No heartbeat. No whispers. No storm. Mara floated in silence, weightless. Her body unbound, pain dissolved into nothing. For the first time, she felt free of the pull, the pressure, the endless chant. Her breath came slow and steady, though she couldn't feel her chest rising. She drifted in an endless void, her thoughts quiet, her heart calm. A voice stirred. Not the lavender woman. Not her reflection. Not the house. Gentle. Familiar. Her father's voice. You fought harder than any of us. Mara's eyes burned though she had no tears left to shed. Dad, is it really you? Light bloomed in the distance. Not golden porch light, not the glow of candles, soft, silver, like moonlight reflected on still water. Within it she saw shapes. Figures. Dozens, hundreds. People she had seen in the glass, in the supper hall, in the walls. Their faces were no longer twisted, no longer hollow. They smiled. Her father stood among them, reaching out. We're free now. Because of you. Her chest tightened, aching with a sorrow she hadn't known she carried. I thought I was trapped forever. You broke the root, he said gently. It may grow again somewhere else, but not here. Not in you. The silver light drew closer, wrapping her in warmth, pulling her toward the figures waiting with open arms. The chant of the houses was gone. The field was gone. For the first time, there was peace. Mara let out a trembling breath. Then I can rest? Her father nodded. You can rest. She stepped forward into the light. The void dissolved. And Mara was gone. The house did not return. The field lay barren, silent, its soil still. No porch lights glowed on the horizon. No doors opened. The cycle had ended. For now.